Bom dia, meu nome é William Pessoa, você está ao vivo aí no nosso segmento UPTV in Space. Hoje estamos ao vivo aí para a missão aí do SWOT, né? A missão essa então que vai lançar o satélite de clima e oceanografia, né? E a parte também de topografia, né? O nome então do nosso satélite de hoje, né? Da missão para a NASA e Spacex, né? SWOT, né? Que significa Surface, Water e Ocean Topography, né? Então, é satélite que vai estudar aí a parte, então, vai fazer monitoramento da parte de rios e lagoas, né? Rios e lagos aí, e também vai monitorar em pequena escala também correntes marítimas, tá? O satélite de hoje, então, será lançado na base de Vandenberg, na Califórnia, tá? Pelo Falcon 9, então por isso que a missão de hoje então, é em conjunto com a SpaceX. O lançamento está previsto para acontecer aí às 8h46 da manhã, no horário de Brasília, e ela tem um tempo previsto para durar aí em torno de 52 minutos, tá? Então vamos ter então o deploy do SWOT. Lembrando então que na nossa programação de hoje, né, estava programada aí 4 missões, né, para acontecer ao longo do dia. Porém, ontem então foi havendo novas modificações, né? Como sempre a gente trata aí que sempre pode haver alterações aí durante a programação, né? Como aconteceu. No caso, por exemplo, a missão mantida para mais tarde, né? Ainda hoje vamos ter live mais tarde, na parte da tarde aí, para a missão então da O3D Empower One, né? A partir daí, deixa eu ver aqui rapidinho. A partir então das 18 horas, né? Vamos ter live então para a missão O3D Empower One, né? Que será lançada então pela SpaceX, tá? A, a missão então do Starlink, né? Que estava programada para hoje também, né, em conjunto aí com essa missão da Empower, foi transferida para amanhã, né? Para dar então preferência para essa missão de hoje à tarde. Então amanhã vamos ter aí a missão Starlink. Já está também já com o horário definido. Dá uma olhada aqui na nossa programação. Tá, a missão Starlink aí programada então para acontecer por volta das 18h40, tá? Da tarde. E a missão da Rocket Lab foi marcada para domingo, né, no mesmo horário então, que foi anunciado aí também por mim anteriormente no início da nossa transmissão. Tá certo? Então essas foram as mudanças que ocorreram aí durante ontem, né, o dia de ontem. Sempre pode haver então essas alterações aí, né, ao longo da programação, tá? Ah, então, né, só recapitulando, então, hoje a missão então SWOT junto com a NASA, aí SpaceX e NASA, né, no caso JPL, tá? A gente vai então atingir aí a altitude, né, de 890 quilômetros, tá? No caso, a altitude de órbita. E o peso do SWOT, ele pesa aqui aproximadamente aí 2 toneladas, tá? Será lançado então pelo Falcon 9 direto da base de Vandenberg, Califórnia. O lançamento previsto aí para acontecer, né, às 8 horas e 46 minutos no horário de Brasília. Tá, então aí vamos ter aí 2 pontos aí. Vamos ter um segundo ponto, né, de ignição, né, do estágio 2 após aí 43 minutos do lançamento. A estimativa é que a gente tenha de órbita, atingir o primeiro ponto de órbita em torno de 8 minutos e 24 segundos, né, após o lançamento. Tá? Aí no tempo de 43 minutos e 22 segundos, vamos ter aí o segundo ponto de ignição do estágio 2, onde vai fazer então aquela aumento de velocidade, né, para transferência de órbita. E aí quando atingir então aos 52 minutos e 28 segundos, aí então vamos ter então o nosso deploy de hoje do SWAP. Lembrando sempre aí então de você deixar seu like e de se inscrever no nosso canal e ativar o sininho para não perder nenhum momento então das nossas lives. E outra informação também, né, que saiu hoje também sobre a missão da base de Alcântara, né, da foguete sul-coreano, é de que já está marcado já o lançamento para o dia 19, né, segunda-feira. O lançamento está previsto acontecer às 6 horas da manhã. Porém, como eles avisaram que devido então à má qualidade do sinal de internet no local, não poderá ser possível então ser feito a transmissão do lançamento, mas eles vão gravar o vídeo do lançamento e vão divulgar nas redes sociais. Tá? Então fiquem ligados aí a partir da semana que vem, então na divulgação aí do lançamento na base de Alcântara, certo? Informação aí que saiu hoje, né? A empresa sul-coreana que vai fazer então o lançamento na segunda-feira. Então, só recapitulando, né, a programação aí da semana, né, que vem agora, está confirmada aí dia 20, né, a nova missão então da Ariane Space com o veículo VHC, né, com a missão Pleiades 1005 e 6. Dia 28 vamos ter aí uma nova missão do Starlink, né? Dia 29 vamos ter a missão Eros C3, né, com a Spacex. E devido àquele problema do vazamento que tivemos com a Soyuz, a missão com a Transporter 6 da Dragon, né, em direção à Estação Espacial Internacional, foi transferida. Né, era para ser essa semana, aí agora, né, que vem, foi transferida para o dia 2 de janeiro. Tá? Devido então a esse problema que tivemos no vazamento com a Soyuz, né, lá na Estação Espacial Internacional. Né? Então foi transferida a missão da Transporter 6 para o dia 2 de janeiro, certo? Não, no caso do Transporter 6 é. Não, Transporter 6 desculpa, Transporter 6 não é a missão de carga, não. A missão de carga está prevista para o dia 10, a CRS-2. É a missão de carga para a Estação Espacial Internacional. Tá? Desculpe, aí é a minha falha. A Transporter 6, então, ela está prevista para o dia 2, tá? É uma missão diferente. Não tem nada a ver com a Dragon, tá? Só retificando aí, corrigindo o que eu falei anteriormente. Que é tanta coisa que a gente se embola um pouquinho aqui nas coisas, tá? Então, o Transporter 6 está confirmado para o dia 2 de janeiro. E essa missão de carga da Dragon, sim, está prevista aí para o dia 10 de janeiro. Então, são essas missões aí que já estão programadas aí, confirmadas, certo? Então, dentro de instantes, vamos iniciar então a nossa transmissão em conjunto com a NASA, direto então da base de Vandenberg, na Califórnia. E por conta que a gente atingiu aí então a nossa marca de mais de 200 inscritos, né? Já está lá o conteúdo, então a função dos atalhos os atalhos, né, da função equação do Office, né? Já está então disponível lá no conteúdo na aba comunidade, tá? Na comunidade do canal. Já está disponível então as imagens, né, das fotos que eu coloquei então em relação à parte do atalho, né? Vamos utilizar então os atalhos na função equação, né, do Office. E dentro e como eu publiquei também na parte então, de comunidade, em breve, nós faremos então um compilado de vídeos em relação ao Python, mais uma série aí de Python, utilizando então aí o pacote XLSX Writer, tá? De como escrever no Excel utilizando o Python, né? Então esse já é um modo, um nível mais assim, digamos, intermediário, tá? Já estamos ao vivo então agora com a transmissão direto para a NASA. Vamos acompanhar.
Live from the central coast of California, this is launch coverage of SWOT.
Então estamos ao vivo aí com a SWOT. Estamos ao vivo então para a transmissão direto da Califórnia, Base de Vandenberg. E aí está, portanto, as imagens da base de Vandenberg na Califórnia, Falcon 9.
Minutes away from liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket for the International Surface Water and Ocean Topography mission, also known as SWOT. It's the first satellite mission to survey nearly all water on the Earth's surface. It will help researchers address some of the most pressing climate change questions of our time. Hello and welcome. I'm Raquel Villanueva with NASA Communications, and I'm joined by Nadia Vinogradova-Schiffer. Welcome, Nadia.
Good morning, Raquel.
Now, she is the director of the Ocean Physics Program at NASA's Science Mission Directorate in the Earth Science Division. Nadia, as a mission scientist, what do you feel most excited about on this very early morning?
Estamos ao vivo então com as imagens da transmissão da missão SWOT.
It's been a long journey, 20 years to
Então
take us to the launch pad plus one day.
Satélite de hoje, né, da NASA, né, da JPL. Então ele vai estudar a parte então de pequenas correntes marítimas, né, e também vai fazer monitoramento de níveis, né, de lagos e rios.
We use water to drink, to grow our crops. We use water to produce energy and support our economy. Water is what controls our
Então, o lançamento previsto para acontecer daqui a 44
so
minutos.
essentially, water, SWOT would track all of this water for the same reason NASA follows water on other planets, because water is essential
Lembrando
to
que mais
life,
tarde, então, a
as we
partir
know it.
das
Absolutely essential.
18
I
horas, né,
have
por aí,
plenty more questions for you coming up,
né,
and we will be taking your questions throughout the broadcast. Send us your questions using the hashtag #TrackingWorldWater to learn more about the SWOT mission. And NASA is celebrating the completion of its historic Artemis 1 flight test. The launch from Kennedy Space Center last month was viewed by millions around the world. While in orbit around the moon, the uncrewed
Então hoje
Orion
ainda, a partir das
spacecraft gave us
18 horas,
these
né,
breathtaking
da tarde,
pictures.
vamos ter a missão
Absolutely
by
stunning, Nadia.
SpaceX
Take a look at that detail.
O3D M-Power 1.
Splashdown. From
E aí,
tranquility
né,
base to Taurus Littrow to the tranquil
momento
waters of the
da
Pacific, the
chegada
latest
então do Orion,
chapter
né,
in
que a gente
NASA's journey to
acompanhou
the
aqui no
moon
YouTube.
comes to a close. Orion back on Earth.
On Sunday, December 11th at 9:48
Né, nós acompanhamos aí então a chegada do Orion.
in the Pacific Ocean after a 26-day
Acompanhamos aí ao vivo, né,
The
no domingo,
Artemis
dia
program
11.
will explore more of the moon than ever before and eventually land the
Essa
first
imagem então que
astronauts
aconteceu
on Mars.
no domingo.
Very exciting.
Very exciting indeed, Raquel. In fact, Artemis and climate change are two priorities for the agency. And you know, Earth and Moon are directly connected as celestial bodies. We're looking how climate change might impact this Earth-Moon system. So there might be more connection between SWOT and Artemis. So stay tuned.
Well, stay tuned for that connection. Now, let's introduce you to our team covering today's launch. Hundreds of people are gathered right now at our Hawk's Nest viewing area. That's where NASA's Jasmine Hopkins will talk with our experts. NASA's Megan Cruz and Denton Gibson will provide us with commentary from the Mission Director Center. Megan, NASA's Launch Services program selected SpaceX to send SWOT into orbit.
Yeah, and so for the last couple of hours, we've been listening to both NASA and SpaceX teams as they prepare for launch today. And great news, both the vehicle and the spacecraft are healthy, the range is green, and the weather is looking excellent, 100% go for launch.
Yeah, absolutely, and which isn't always the case, but we have great weather for this.
Yeah, I love hearing 100%. This is the first time I've actually heard 100% for a launch, so that's exciting. And commentating with me today is Denton Gibson. He is a mission manager with NASA's Launch Services program and the perfect person to chat with me today because before your current role, you used to work with SpaceX really closely.
Yeah, for a long time, I was the Falcon 9 engineering team lead for the Launch
Services program.
And I started working with the Falcon 9 when during our first mission with SpaceX, so that was many years ago.
Okay, many years ago.
Yeah.
But a lot of experience you add today.
Yeah.
So the next big step for launch today is to start loading propellant into the rocket. Just a few minutes ago, the NASA team gave the go for propellant load, but now we have to do a SpaceX poll, right?
Right, and what the NASA poll is, the various groups within NASA making sure everybody's ready to go. We just heard that poll, everybody's good to go, and now the SpaceX team is going to confirm that the NASA team
perfect. Here's a live look out at launch pad 4 East here at Vandenberg Space Force Base. We'll monitor the SpaceX poll that we just told you about, and we'll check back in once fueling begins. Back to you, Raquel and Nadia.
Thank you. We have a fun way
E aí a nossa altitude, né, que a gente vai atingir vai ser aí de 890 km altitude de órbita.
On the card you'll hear while watching the show. To print one, just scan this QR code you see on your screen. We also have the website go.nasa.gov/SWOT-bingo. When you hear a word, mark it off, and when you get a bingo, share your win on social media with the hashtag #TrackingWorldWater.
Então, após o lançamento, nosso tempo de duração da missão é de aproximadamente aí 52 minutos e 30 segundos.
The specs of the SWOT satellite. It weighs more than 4,800 pounds at launch. The satellite is just over 16 feet in height. Its solar panels extend to more than 48 feet in length, about the size of a tennis court. It will cover over 90% of Earth's surface at least once every 21 days, and SWOT will increase our tracking of lakes from a few thousand to over 1 million. The mission is set to run for the next 3 years. SWOT is a joint mission between NASA and the French space agency CNES. JPL shipped the payload to France in the summer of 2021. For more than a year, engineers worked at Thales Alenia Space to integrate and test the satellite. After a series of functional and environmental tests, it was ready for the trip from the Nice airport back to the U.S. In October, the satellite and its shipping container arrived at Vandenberg Space Force Base, where it was greeted with the Falcon 9. Now, Nadia, this is a complex international partnership. Can you talk about some of the challenges the team faced?
Well, we actually gel very well with all our partners, CNES, Canada, and UK Space Agency. We're currently a large multinational science team spreading 6 continents. You know, quite a soccer team, just like a World Cup.
Exactly. And now you're all here today.
Yes, we are.
Well, water is fundamental for life. SWOT will help us understand where Earth's water is today, where it is coming from, and where it will be tomorrow. Take a look.
So for me, SWOT
E aí vamos ver
water.
pouquinho aí sobre
SWOT is precision.
In one
SWOT.
word, I would describe SWOT as beautiful.
SWOT stands for Surface, Water, and Ocean Topography.
SWOT will be observing the elevation of water surface in the ocean, on the land. The water surface height will allow us to assess the water storage in lakes and stream flow of rivers.
Our water is one of our precious resources. SWOT is unique because it is the
aí também vai
first
fazer a
global
parte de
view of our
monitoramento aí da
ever-changing water
elevação
supply
então,
on Earth.
dos níveis, né?
SWOT's main instrument is called CAREN, which is the
Rios e
K-band
do-
radar interferometer. CAREN is what
de
sets
lagos.
apart SWOT from other missions. It's a unique instrument that we're flying for the first time.
The CAREN instrument uses the two antennas, which are spread out on either side of the spacecraft, in order to bounce signals off of both of those to get a much larger view of the surface.
Também fazendo um
And being able
trabalho
to do it in very
fotográfico
high
também,
resolution,
fazendo
higher
esse
accuracy,
monitoramento.
and also a wide swath,
Podem ver nas
so
imagens.
that we're able to measure large tracts over the Earth in a relatively small amount of time.
SWOT is a pathfinder mission using new technology to address transformative questions on climate change and its impact on our environment.
We're collaborating with CNES, the French space agency, for these programs, but we're also helping the global community to be able to contribute and collaborate towards making our home planet a better place.
SWOT will make our models better, and understanding the water budget helps us be able to steward that precious resource.
If water is out of balance, we could face droughts, and it could also lead to floods.
SWOT is going to be observing water in oceans, and ocean science is essential for understanding sea level rise and climate change.
Now we are facing a time that we need to be very precise. Therefore, we can accurately predict what will happen in our coastal cities 50 years from now.
Understanding that it is a finite source and we can't rely
Também
on
estão
that
acompanhando a
forever
missão
is
SWOT.
something that's really important.
I'm just so excited and can't wait to see how it impacts the lives of others.
Without really understanding the Earth, we cannot protect it, because we know that the missions
Lembrando
that
que se
we work
você é
on
novo
are
aqui
going
no
to
canal, né,
have
não deixe
an
de dar
impact
sua
on our children,
like.
our grandchildren.
E deixar aqui então a sua inscrição.
NASA has a family of satellites in
Lembrando
orbit
que hoje,
right
então,
now,
ainda
studying how
hoje,
the
mais
whole
tarde, a
Earth
partir das
works as a
18 horas,
system. Karen St. Germain
temos
is
aí a
NASA's
missão
director of the Earth Science
O3D
Division.
M-Power
Thank you for joining
1
us today,
by
Karen.
SpaceX.
Great to be here.
And what kind of role will SWOT play in NASA's fleet of Earth-observing satellites?
Well, NASA has a fleet of 25 satellites today, missions that are looking down at Earth, at the atmosphere, at the land, at the ice, and the oceans. And these satellites tell us how the Earth works as a system. But SWOT, as we know, our planet is that we live on a water planet. And so SWOT will give us the first high-definition view of not just our oceans, but the inland waters as well. And, in these waters
Portanto,
play
aí
an
estão 34
important role
minutos e
in
40 segundos
climate
para o nosso
change and in
lançamento.
everyday lives.
Well, it will be an exciting addition to the family.
Absolutely.
Now, what can we learn through space-based tools like satellites that we can't gather here
O
on Earth?
lançamento, então, hoje está sendo feito, então, na
is the ultimate
Califórnia,
high ground. It's a unique vantage point
na base de
from which we
Vandenberg.
can see the entire Earth. And that's especially important when we're looking at parts of the Earth that are remote, difficult for humans to get to.
O lançamento está previsto para acontecer aí às
The southern
8h46
oceans
da
play an
manhã,
incredibly important role in
no
our
horário de
climate.
Brasília.
They've absorbed more than the oceans in total have absorbed about a quarter of the carbon dioxide, the greenhouse gases that have been emitted in the industrial age. The southern oceans, because they're cold, play an incredibly important role. So set from the unique
E o
vantage
tempo
point
então,
of
de
space,
duração aí
we
da
can see
missão aí em
these
torno
remote
de
areas
52
and
minutos
better
e 28
understand how
segundos.
they play into the global system.
And Karen, just going forward,
Isso
how
após
do
o
you see
lançamento, né? O tempo de
SWOT
duração
being
da
a
missão após o
trailblazer
lançamento
for
então é
the
de
next Earth Science
52
mission
minutos
over
e
the next
28
decade?
segundos.
It's a great question, and we are already hard at work building the next generation of Earth-observing satellites. And these will also look at all the aspects of the Earth system, but just as important as what we're doing is how we're doing it, with open science principles to try to accelerate the pace of discovery from these systems, and with partners around the world. So SWOT is in many ways blazing
Lembrando
the
que amanhã
trail
vamos ter
for
também aí
how
a
we
missão
will develop that
Starlink,
next generation of capabilities to
live então
accelerate
iniciando aí a
discovery
partir
and
das
the use of the
18h40
data to inform
no horário de
decisions around
Brasília.
the world.
E no domingo
Karen, how are you
vamos
feeling
ter
about
aí a
today's
live
launch?
para a missão da
Could not be
Rocket
more
Lab,
excited.
dia
We've
18.
been waiting for the SWOT launch, and as the team has gone through the challenges that you discussed a few moments ago, and so it's been a long road to get here, and we are so excited. We cannot wait.
Oh, it's very exciting. Thank you so much, Karen, for joining us.
Enjoy the lunch.
We all will. All right. Thank you so much.
Now, it is T-minus 32 minutes and counting to today's launch of
32
the SWOT
minutos
satellite. Let's
e
check in
15
on launch
segundos para o
operations.
lançamento.
Megan is live. Megan, preparations for this launch began hours ago. So where do we stand right now?
Yeah, so Falcon 9 fueling is underway. SpaceX's launch director gave the go for propellant loading about a couple of minutes ago. So now
Neste
liquid
momento
oxygen
aí
and
a
RP1 or
SpaceX
rocket grade
está começando a
kerosene
ser
both are going
abastecida.
in to the rocket's first stage.
Right, correctly.
Caso o
And
primeiro
it's underway
estágio.
and everything is going smooth so far. No issues to report.
Perfect. So if we take a live look at the pad here, a beautiful shot of the payload fairing there with SWOT tucked safely inside. Denton, we talked about why SpaceX starts fueling so close to launch. Why when other launch providers start hours earlier?
And
Então
one of
aí
the main reasons
31
they use
minutos
intensified
e
propellant,
20
so they're
segundos.
very, very cold. That way it allows them to fit
Então, nesse
more
momento aí o
fuel
Falcon
and
9 já
oxidizer
começaram o
into
processo
a
então,
tank
de
without having to
abastecimento
increase the size of the tank.
do primeiro
And
estágio.
the reason why it's so close to launch is that you don't want those densified propellants to heat up any, and that will cause a lot of cause you to kind of bleed off some of your oxide, etc. So, and that's why they do it so close to launch. It doesn't give that fuel and those propellants much time to heat up.
Mm-hmm. And as we look at this live picture here, you can see that telltale sign of soot on the booster there. That means it's flown to space before.
Yes, this thing has flown 5 times before this, and it's a combination of Space Force missions as well as some commercial missions. So we do have some familiarity with this booster, and the soot is just a little seasoning on the booster.
Some seasoning. I love how you say that. Okay, well, perfect. So far, so good. A really quiet count. We're hearing the call-outs we're expecting. Nothing out of the ordinary. So, again, so far, so good. So we'll send it back to you guys, Raquel and Nadia.
Thanks for the update. We'll go back to our commentators as we get closer to launch in just a few minutes. But first, we have some questions to answer about the SWOT mission and water. Our first question is from a student. Here's Meadow.
Hi, my name is Meadow. I'm 7 years old and I live in Studio City, California. I wonder how much water is on planet Earth.
30 minutos.
Hi, Meadow. Good question. There are more than billion cubic kilometers of water on Earth. A lot of water, Raquel.
It's a lot of water. So thanks for your question, Meadow. And we have a social media question coming up as well. Let's see it. At Kawan wants to know, what is the most important thing to know as a NASA scientist?
To know as a NASA scientist, well, hard work.
Estamos ao vivo aí, então com a nossa missão de hoje da SWOT.
And have fun while doing it.
Space, Water
Possess those all,
and
Dottie.
Ocean
And we have
Topography.
another question coming up. Zeros and Maths wants to know what's
Né?
the
Então, onde eles vão fazer aí a parte de monitoramento de elevações aí de rios, lagos, região costeira, essa parte costeira, então, as cidades aí, e também eles vão estudar também a parte de pequenas correntes marítimas.
We will definitely observe the rising oceans and rising sea, particularly close to the coast. And as we collect more and more data, we can estimate the rate, which is, the change over certain periods. This is what the rate is. Yes, excellent question.
Yes, it was. Now, remember, you can send your questions
online by using the hashtag tracking world water. Now, you are looking live to the launch pad right now. We are T-minus 28 minutes to liftoff. SWOT data will help researchers better understand the ocean's role in climate change. Let's go to Jasmine live at the Hawk's Nest to learn more about the mission's science.
Thank you, Raquel, and welcome to the Hawk's Nest. This is the main viewing location at Vandenberg, and there are over 500 guests scheduled to be in the surrounding area tonight. And right now, I'm thrilled to be joined by Li Luangfu, the SWOT project scientist who's been working on water monitoring missions for over 2 decades. Welcome, Li.
Thank you very much, Jasmine.
Of course.
Pleasure to be here.
We're so glad to have you. It is very special. Can you tell me what are the main science goals of SWOT?
Yeah, the main science goals are to better understand the ocean's role in climate change and how warming climate is affecting the Earth's rivers, lakes, and reservoirs. So more than 90% of the heat since the Industrial Revolution, the global warming has been absorbed and stored in the deep sea. SWOT will provide a high-definition view of ocean topography for calculating ocean currents that transport the heat from the atmosphere to the deep sea. So the data will help improve ocean models to assess the ocean's capacity in the future to keep absorbing heat, protect humanity from global warming. And also in a warming climate, the water cycle of Earth is accelerating, making it very difficult to track and manage water resources, and also difficult to predict flood and droughts. So
Lembrando então de vocês aí, quem é novo no canal, deixar aí sua inscrição e deixar o like então para essa transmissão e ativar o sininho então para as novas notificações aí. Lembrando que também hoje mais tarde, a partir das 18 horas, teremos missão aí para Spacex, com a missão O3 de Empower One.
What sets SWOT apart from previous satellites?
Yeah, it's all about the spatial resolution and the coverage. For instance, the footprint of the radar on SWOT is 1,000 times smaller than conventional altimeter, making this spatial resolution of SWOT much, much higher. And also, it will cover all the ocean and the surface water without any gaps.
E em breve aí na parte então no segmento de programação, Python, vamos ter também aí novos vídeos, uma série nova de Python, falando um pouquinho sobre o pacote XLS, X-Writer, onde vamos ver aí como fazer então escrever no Excel utilizando o Python.
Representing the culmination of my 40-plus years career at JPL working on oceanography from space. So my feeling now is a mixture of excitement, fulfillment, and also some anxiety.
Right, yes, a little bit of anxiety. I know that you and your team will breathe a sigh of relief when we're done tonight.
Absolutely.
Fantastically. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Raquel, back to you.
Thank you, Jasmine and Lee. The SWOT satellite is truly a remarkable spacecraft. Earlier, I got a chance to look at it up close with SWOT project manager Parag Vazay.
Parag, we're standing here in front of a 1/3 scale model of SWOT. So can you tell us a little bit more about the key scientific instruments on board?
Absolutely. So on this
Aí
model,
vamos ver pouquinho dos instrumentos aí que está no
but
SWOT.
the instrument package is really on this configuration, first featured with our brand new instrument called the Karen Ka-band radar interferometer. What makes it an interferometer is really having a radar with signals that
Então aí
are
tem a parte aí
transmitted and
de radar, né,
received
onde
two separate antennas that are
emite ondas
separated
aí,
by
né,
a
que
large
captura então
distance.
as
We also need other instruments to make SWOT
as
work.
imagens, né?
We have a radar altimeter, which is a more traditional kind of altimeter, gives us precise but very small strip maps. We have a microwave radiometer that's used to correct the altimeter measurement in terms of the water vapor as the signal is going through the Earth's atmosphere. And we also need a set of instrumentation
Então aí temos alguns instrumentos aí também de micro-ondas aí, né, também, para fazer a parte de monitoramento então da
receiver that you
atmosfera.
don't see here, it's inside. We have a DORA system, and we have the laser retroreflector array.
And can you let us know how SWOT will communicate?
Data, first of all.
Tivemos problema na comunicação lá, mas já voltamos.
Has to be downlinked and then processed into products. The key to being able to do that, of course, is we have a very large recorder, memory recorder inside the module here, but then getting it out is the job of this antenna system. That's the X-band antenna system. That's downlinking at 600 megabit per second. And we also have an S-band system that's more for command and control and basic mission operations.
We obviously can't take a SWOT like this in space. How will it fold and unfold after launch?
So the whole system is, of course, needs to be compact. It's folded off to the side of the payload module that you see here, and it basically deploys in 3 phases. One that's first coming up, and then moving out, and then the antennas finally deploying on the side themselves, and then the whole system is locked in place.
It's a very interesting explanation. Thank you so much, Parag.
Of course, happy to do that.
Time to check in with the launch team at the Mission Director Center to see how the countdown is progressing. Megan and Denton, how are we
22 minutos para o nosso lançamento.
So we are T-minus 21 minutes and 59 seconds and counting until liftoff, and fueling of the SpaceX Falcon 9 continues, right, Denton?
Yep, it's continuing to progress just fine. Everything is moving along.
Ainda em abastecimento, aí o primeiro estágio do Falcon 9.
So the U.S. Space Force, we know, is responsible for the range, making sure it's safe to fly our intended trajectory. Any concerns there?
No, actually. The range is green right now. Weather's looking good. All the assets in the correct configuration, and so we're all completely green right now.
Talk to me about trajectories. You know, that it's not an easy task to design one, right?
That's where a lot of the real rocket science is to design a trajectory. It's basically you're trying to get from the launch pad to a point in space.
Ontem também falar da SpaceX, ontem também tivemos aí mais teste estático,
some debris up there. So you have to make sure you avoid it, and the work that goes into it is very interesting because the team has a very detailed model, analytical model of how the launch vehicle will perform, and they marry that with everything that's orbiting Earth and trying to understand which paths we can take, when we can launch, times, etc. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and that's where a lot of the real rocket science is done.
Yeah, and we're talking about years of work, right?
Yes. In some cases, it's
tivemos também na China, né, o primeiro lançamento aí da Land Space, com um motor aí à base de metano e oxigênio líquido.
Who have worked their trajectory, who have worked on the spacecraft, who worked on the vehicle. You know, it's many years of hard work.
Yes, it's been 20 years since some of the folks who work on the spacecraft has been working this mission. So I mean, it's
não tivemos live para essa missão, né? Mas
and now here they can see again their spacecraft sitting in the payload fairing at the top of the Falcon 9 on the launch pad here at Vandenberg. You know, the Space Force also monitors the weather for us. And again, let's take a look at the weather graphic we have prepared for you guys. The launch weather officer reporting 100% go
aí, né,
for launch.
do lançamento de hoje, né, 100%, então, de chance de ir, né, então tá tudo aqui, né, temperatura entre 41 e 46 graus Fahrenheit, então aí tá tudo ok hoje para o lançamento, né, 100% de probabilidade de ir.
Yeah, and then here we see some of the venting we were talking about. You know, we have to vent, right, to maintain the right kind of pressure.
That is correct. I mean, and you will see this as a normal part of it.
19 minutos e 20 segundos para o lançamento.
The appropriate pressure within the tanks.
And this is venting of liquid oxygen, right?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So everything is looking good. Can't wait to see this launch as we were talking about. So we'll send it back to you, Raquel and Nadia.
All right, thank you so much, Megan and Denton. Joining us now on the West Coast is Janet Petro, the Center Director for Kennedy Space Center on the East Coast in Florida. Thank you for joining us today, Janet.
Thank you, Raquel. Happy to be here.
Great. Now, most launches take place at Kennedy, but sometimes, like today, we launch from Vandenberg.
Estamos então ao vivo aí na base de Vandenberg, na Califórnia, com o lançamento da
has multiple locations where they launch from, and so as you mentioned, we're here today on the California coast, and we have several locations in Florida, but also as far away as Alaska and New Zealand. I mean, it generally depends on the science mission itself, right?
Lembrando, né, que após o lançamento, o tempo de duração da missão deverá ser de torno de 52 minutos e 28 segundos.
In general, we launch from the East
Terá
Coast
então um
when
momento
we
então
need
do
an
deploy.
equatorial mission. And then in the case of
Vamos ter
today,
também
when
o
we're
segundo
looking more at
ponto
the
de
polar
ignição
missions,
do
we
estágio
generally
2,
launch
aí
out
no
of
tempo
the
de
West Coast here at
43 minutos e 22 segundos após o lançamento.
Tell us more about the
E o
Kennedy
primeiro
Space
ponto
Center
de órbita
involvement in
é em
launches
torno aí de
here at
8 minutos e 24
So the
segundos
Kennedy Space Center, we are
após
very,
o
very
lançamento.
proud to host the Launch Services Program, and we've been doing so since 1998. And that program,
E o
I'm
peso
very
de
proud of
carga
that
de hoje, né,
program. I tend to think
aproximadamente
of
aí
them
2
as the
toneladas, né,
world-renowned
então nossa
experts
carga.
in launch vehicles, and
E
they
ele vai
really,
ficar então
really
numa
do
altitude aí
understand
mais ou menos em
all
torno
of
de
the launch vehicles
quase
and provide a
900
great
quilômetros, né,
service to our
190
to our
quilômetros de
agency.
altitude.
They really do the end-to-end services on launching a mission. You know, they'll work with the spacecraft providers, they'll work on the design, they provide
E
data,
recordando a vocês
telemetry,
que
and
mais
then,
tarde,
like,
então, a partir das
today we're
18 horas,
providing
vamos ter a missão
the
para
launch services, the
a
mission
missão
assurance for each of the missions.
O3P
And like I said, they've been doing
Power
it since
1
1998. They do a
SpaceX
really,
também.
really great job wherever, whatever location
18
the
horas.
mission is going out of. So very, very proud of that.
Ainda hoje.
Proud of that program, and we host them out of the Kennedy Space Center.
That's an excellent program, Janet. And what are Earth-related
17
missions are
minutos.
coming up for you in the near future?
Oh, goodness. I am so focused on this year. You know, we just had the JPSS-2 in Lofted, and now the, and now
É,
what
então,
we're
como
doing
vocês
today
podem
with SWAT. I'm
acompanhar
trying
aí
to
na
think
tela,
next
né,
year,
estamos aí
we have a little bit
chegando
of a
então na
break
etapa
until
final do abastecimento do primeiro
coming
estágio.
up. We did earlier this year launch the GOES mission.
ISS launches.
Yeah, I can't, and you know, of course, the
Estamos aí então com
other missions
100%
outside
de
of the launch
chance
services
de
program. Of
probabilidade
course, we
de
do
acontecer o
the crew
lançamento
to the
hoje.
International Space Station. We do the cargo to the International Space Station, and you know, we just came from our big mission was Artemis, and very, very proud to get that launched out of our pad. And you know, we just recovered the vehicle down in San Diego, and that was an incredible experience. The Exploration Ground Systems program down at Kennedy, they're the ones responsible for the front end, the launch piece of that program, and then the recovery operation here on the West Coast, and they did a really outstanding job. We had a tremendously busy year at the Kennedy Space Center, and it's I like to say it's our diamond anniversary, our 60th anniversary. So it was a great way to really cap off the year with Artemis, and now ending with the SWAT program here tonight. We had a record number of launches. We're at like something like 53 launches that we supported from the East Coast, and our center supports whether it launches on
Lembrando
our
também, né, que
property,
para quem
Kennedy
não,
Space
ainda não
Center
conhece,
property, or
aí
on
também
the
eu
Space Force
faço
property, Cape Canaveral. We
lives
provide
também
all
na
kinds of
Twitch,
services, whether
né,
it's
lá no nosso canal
pellet services or
UPTV,
standing
onde eu
up our
faço então parte
EOC.
daí do nosso
And so
segmento
if you
de
think about
jogos,
that, 53
principalmente dos
launches,
jogos
that's about
retrô,
Fantastic
lá na
record
Twitch.
One a
breaking
week.
year.
One
Yeah,
a week.
thank you, Janet, so much for
Thank
that.
you
Happy
all.
anniversary. Now, there is a growing community of scientists eager to use
15
SWOT
minutos.
data. Let's go to Jasmine live at the Hawk's Nest to meet one of them.
Yes, Raquel, that is right. I'm here with somebody who is also eager to get his hands on that SWOT data. Toby
Estamos
Minear
aí a
with the
15
Series
minutos
Group
do
from CU
lançamento.
Boulder in Colorado. Welcome, Toby.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We are so glad to have you here. You are a research hydrologist with that group. So can you tell me what are some of the applications of SWOT?
Well, SWOT is amazing because it has this really unique capability of measuring water levels over a big area. And so for people that are water managers in particular, there's a lot of excitement there because we really don't have this kind of capability at present. We have to do these things from the field, individual point measurements and things like that that are very hard to make in the field. And so we have a lot of interest from people that are like municipal water agencies, state agencies for dam safety, federal agencies. All really interested in getting their hands on some water level data in particular and storage change.
14 minutos para o
So
lançamento.
it'll be very exciting to see it.
It is very exciting. And really what I hear you saying is that SWOT is changing the game. So what are some of those specific applications, maybe agriculture or, flood zones? How is it changing our lives in our own backyard?
Yeah, well, so a few things that will change are, so for example, flood risk. We really don't have a good sense of where flooding occurs and when. and why. So how much water requires flooding to occur. So for example, a good place for that is on the coast. We don't really have very many gauges along the coast at the freshwater and saltwater interface. And so, yeah, I think we'll see a lot of changes there, a lot of changes inland for lakes and wetlands too.
Wow, it's really exciting. And I understand, Toby, you're also in this group called the Early Adopters. What is that and who's in that?
Yeah, so the Early Adopters group is about 25 different organizations. They come from all over the world. And these are people that are interested in SWOT data. They've heard sort of through the grapevine that there's some data coming out for water level data. And these are agencies that are non-governmental organizations. They're governmental organizations ranging from city level water agencies up to federal agencies. So a lot of excitement there from the water community.
Right, very exciting. Toby, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks. Raquel, back to you.
Thank you so
Neste momento, então, 8 horas e 34 minutos no horário de Brasília. Faltando, então, aí menos de 12 minutos e 30 segundos.
6 years in the role, he has overseen nearly 100 science missions, including SWOT, DART, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, the Mars 2020 mission, and the James Webb Telescope. He also co-authored and authored more than 200 articles and received many agency awards. Congratulations, Thomas.
Congratulations, Thomas. Yes, Thomas will be missed.
Eu volto já já, tá? Vocês ficam aí com as imagens.
Dedication and scientific curiosity.
Missão?
When I was doing my first lunch with him, Sentinel-6, Mike Friley, he was very supportive. So yeah, Thomas will be missed. But congratulations, enjoy, well deserved.
Absolutely, enjoy that. The president of France's space agency, CNES, Philippe Baptiste, sent us this message about today's launch.
The result of NASA and CNES historic partnership in oceanography that all started more than 30 years ago with Topex Poseidon is really essential. And I am very proud to send you this message and to be with you, at least in spirit, for this launch. I want to say once again a few words how proud CNES and its team are to be involved in this ambitious international adventure alongside NASA. SWOT is the first space mission to survey the planet's freshwater resources on a global scale. The water elevation of lakes and water courses, the discharge of rivers, and the fine dynamics of the oceans are all vital data that are going to help us better adapt to climate change. In this respect, SWOT truly marks a revolution for space hydrology, and we are proud to be embarking on this endeavor with the French community of scientists, of users, and of course with our industry. I wish you a successful launch, and go SWOT, go!
Go SWOT! Climate change is a topic front and center for everyone, including NASA. Joining us now is NASA's Sandra Conley. Thank you for joining us, Sandra.
Thank you for having me.
Now, as a leader in science, what does it mean to be part of this mission?
Oh man, this is such an exciting mission. You know, it's unprecedented in many ways. It's going to be the mission that for the first time ever, we're measuring surface water around the world. Freshwater sources, saltwater sources, how they ebb and flow and move in between each other, how the energy is transferred across those water bodies, and also with the environment. And it's really going to help us improve our weather forecasting ability and our climate prediction abilities.
It's a real trailblazer. Now, SWOT is a joint mission between NASA and CNES. Climate change knows no boundaries, so why is it important for a mission to be an international collaboration?
So, science knows no boundaries, right? So our scientists are from all around the world, and this partnership with CNES is tremendously important. It spans over 30 years on ocean altimetry missions, and that's not even counting other partnerships that we have with CNES to achieve our science. So we're looking forward to many, many more missions together with them.
Well, Sandra, as you know, SWOT is the first science team that fully complies with open science requirement. Can you tell us more about NASA's open science paradigm, and how do we kick off the year of open science with SWOT?
You know, that's a great question. So our space satellites give us a really unique vantage point to observe the Earth, right? So we're able to look at it as a global system, right? And the data that we've collected through our satellites over the 50 years allow us to really look at the the ground, the atmosphere, and the oceans. And what open science and open data is going to enable us to do is to take that to the next level and give it to the individual user, whether they're decision makers at the local level, at the regional level, or even tribal communities. It's to give that information to people so that they can make informed decisions regardless of their business. You don't need to actually be a scientist or an engineer moving forward to be able to leverage this data and apply it to your day-to-day business.
Looking forward to the data. Thank you so much, Sandra.
Thank you.
Now, let's head over to our commentators. We are T-minus 7 minutes our launch of the Falcon 9 rocket from Vandenberg Space Force Base. Megan and Denton will navigate us through that terminal count.
Yeah, just under 8 minutes to liftoff, and we are looking fantastic for launch. Weather is a go. No collision concerns on the range for our instantaneous opportunity to launch at 3:46 and 47 seconds Pacific time. We see a live shot of the Falcon 9 sitting on Launch Pad 4 East here at Vandenberg Space Force Base. This reusable two-stage rocket standing about 230 feet tall. The first stage is the bottom two-thirds of what you see there. That's called the booster. And then at the right over that, you see this black piece there. That's the interstage adapter, which connects the first and second stage. And then at the very top, the payload fairing. And you see SWOT painted on there. SWOT is tucked
Como já
safely
podemos
inside
observar
of it,
aí, o
folded up to
estágio
about the
2
size of a
já está
mid-sized
começando
car.
então a fazer o abastecimento.
And we just heard the call out for stage 1 engine shield, and basically what that is just the getting the engine ready for the flow of the colder temperatures. So it's kind of like if you imagine if you were to jump in a really cold pool,
Estamos ao vivo então da base de Vandenberg aqui na Califórnia, acompanhando então a missão
want that
SWOT.
with the engine, so we slowly start to bleed in those liquid oxygen to kind of bring it down to the temperature that it'll be seeing during flight. So that's really what that is. It's really preserving the stress on the engines, and it's getting ready for flight.
Yeah, that was a great
soon.
analogy.
So,
yeah, you made me cold thinking about it. So we see some of that liquid oxygen venting off now, both the first and second stages, right?
Yeah, and you're seeing that because the booster is very, very cold because that liquid oxygen is inside there. And soon you'll hear the call out for stage 1.
Lembrando que se tiver algum problema aí, então, com o lançamento hoje, nova oportunidade será amanhã.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
Vamos receber a informação que o estágio 1 está concluído. Está concluído, então, o abastecimento do primeiro estágio.
Will continue to top off until about a minute and a half before launch. Falcon 9 uses helium as a pressurant, meaning it uses helium to maintain pressure in the tanks as liquid oxygen and RP1 are consumed by the engines during ascent.
Nesse momento, então, o primeiro estágio aí já está concluído o seu abastecimento.
The second stage has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC
Portanto, aí estão 5 minutos e 15 segundos para o lançamento.
MVAC throughout the count. Next call out will come in just a couple of seconds. You'll hear that the spacecraft is on internal power and configured for a launch. That just means that the spacecraft is now running on batteries versus getting power from the strong back you see there.
Lembrando que mais
pressing for strong back retract.
Então, a parte de suporte de apoio do Falcon 9 começa a
strong back is that
abrir.
mechanical structure you see just to the right of the vehicle, and they're just pressing up the tanks and getting ready for that. You'll see it tilt back slightly initially, and then when we get closer to launch, you'll see it tilt about 45 degrees back, get out of the way so the Falcon 9 can clear the pad with no issues.
And that tilt starts when you see that cradle. It's kind of like a hug around, just at the base of the payload fairing wheel. You see those arms start to open, and that will allow for the strong back to start tilting backwards.
Yeah, that is correct. And you can see from the video, you can see that cradle's opening up, and then you'll see a few seconds after that's completed, the strong back will tilt back slightly.
And now we're going to pause for an upcoming poll here.
In limb on countdown 1.
A parte de suporte de apoio do Falcon 9 já está sendo recuado. Neste momento.
In limb copies.
3 minutos e 40 segundos.
for this mission, NASA's launch manager for this mission. Again, we see that strong back retracting, and you see those connections between the strong back and the rocket. Those are umbilicals, and that's
Estamos
what
acompanhando
continues
aí
to
a
feed
missão
the
SWOT.
rocket with liquid, electricity, gases, right up until launch, right?
That is correct. And what we're waiting to hear right now is just the SpaceX team confirming with the NASA launch manager that the team is ready to go. And so,
LD, NLM, countdown 1. LD, go ahead. NASA is go for SWOT launch.
Liberado para o lançamento.
There you go. Perfect news.
Stage
NASA's
1 launch
go
load
for
complete. Stage 1 POGO.
yep, and you heard the team is all good to go. And so right now, stage 1 LOX load is complete. At this point in time, the stage 1 is completely filled with fuel.
Falcon 9 então liberado para o lançamento. Faltando 2
Today we're
minutos
going to
e
be treated to
40
some
segundos.
sonic booms since the booster will land right back here at Vandenberg Space Force Base, just about 1,000 feet from where it's going
Estamos
to
então na
launch.
base de Vandenberg, na Califórnia.
Always exciting to see. I mean, it's just so fascinating that the booster is going to land basically just very close to where it took off from.
Yeah, that's going to be great. And as you said, again, because visibility is so great, we won't just see the launch. We're also going to see that booster coming back to land.
Yeah, and it's taking everything I have to stay inside and not go outside and see this with my own 2 eyes.
No, you have to sit in here with me.
2 minutos.
And in these last few minutes, Falcon 9 is performing final health checks
Aviso de 2
on its
minutos.
primary communications, avionics, and propulsion systems in preparation for flight.
This is the rock. Range is green.
Tudo verde, tudo liberado então para o lançamento de hoje. Tudo ok.
And we should surely we should be hearing the call out for
Todos
that,
os sistemas
stage 2
do
LOX load is
Falcon
complete.
9
And then that
ok.
way, all of the propellants will be loaded onto the
Stage 2
vehicle.
LOX load complete.
You just heard
Estágio
the call
2
out,
aí
so all the
abastecido,
propellants are done loading.
100%.
And at this point in time, we're just gearing up for Falcon 9 to go into startup, which is basically the computer taking over and going through its last set of
Falcon 9 então neste
configurations and
momento
checks to
está
make sure
com
they're good for
100% aí
launch, leading
abastecido.
into T0.
And remember how Denton was telling us earlier, you know, we see the amount
1
of
minuto
liquid
e 20
oxygen
segundos.
coming off of the rocket fluctuating throughout the count. Here, that's what we're seeing again to maintain that pressure, the correct pressure in both stages.
Yep, and what you're seeing right now is them venting the LOX that was in the
Aviso de 1 minuto.
the umbilical tower 9. So it's venting that out, getting it all ready to go for launch.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And we just heard that
Estamos
call
agora
out,
então no
Falcon 9 is in
processo
startup, which means
de
the
automático do
computer's taking over
lançamento, né,
and
de será.
preparing for its initial launch sequence.
And now both stages
50
are pressurizing
segundos.
for launch. Next call out in just a couple of seconds.
40 segundos.
SpaceX launch director confirming go for launch. Range
Liberado para o
remains go,
lançamento.
weather is
Falcon
go.
9 liberado. 30 segundos.
This launch will mark the 100th first mission of NASA's Launch Services program based at Kennedy Space Center.
15 seconds.
15
Here we go.
segundos.
10.
10.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ignição
Engine ignition
e
and
lançou
liftoff.
às 2 horas e
Liftoff of
47
SWOT,
minutos.
our first global
Lançou o
survey
SWOT,
of Earth's surface
levando
water
então
to
o
study
Falcon
how
9
this
levando então o SWOT.
ever-changing resource
A
affects our
Space
climate.
Water and Ocean Topography. Direto então da base de Vandenberg na Califórnia.
And there we get a nice view from the ground camera, and also we switch to the onboard camera.
Now, Denton, you didn't go outside to see the
Lá vai o
launch, but now
Falcon
we're
9
feeling it
rasgando
inside here in the Mission
os
Director
céus
Center,
da
the
Califórnia.
rumble all around us from launch.
Absolutely. And now you're getting a good look at the onboard camera looking down towards the aft end of the rockets, and you can see the Merlin engines coming to life there.
And this room coming to life, really. Lots of rumble going on in here. And we're soon going to hear that the rocket is supersonic, meaning it's going faster than the speed of sound, followed by Falcon 9
Veículo então está
reaching what's called
supersônico nesse momento.
max Q, the moment of peak mechanic
E
stress
max
on the
Q.
rocket.
Já estamos em max Q.
Look, we getting nice views.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Just heard a call of
Supersônico agora.
Getting a good shot of looking at the onboard.
Confirmado aí
Q.
max Q.
We just stepped through max Q.
Estamos aí com 1 minuto e 20 segundos de missão.
Next call-outs are going to come.
Engine chill. MVAC engine chill, which means
No
getting the
próximo
second
estágio,
stage
então, é o
engine ready to
Missão,
start.
né, que é o desligamento do primeiro estágio, separação e ignição do segundo estágio.
Stage 2 ignition.
We see this beautiful shot of all of the Merlin engines, all 9 of them lit up.
That's what 1.7 million pounds of thrust look like.
Lots of thrust. So the next callouts are going to come in quick succession, so let me walk through them really quick. So at T plus 2 minutes and 15 seconds, we're going to have main engine cutoff. That's MECO, meaning the 9 Merlin engines on the first stage are going to shut down. And then a few seconds after that, stage 1 and 2 will separate. Stage 1 will do a flip and do a boost back burn to orient itself back towards Earth for that landing here at the Space Force base.
And there we get a good shot of looking at the interstage. Basically, the camera is looking up towards the second stage.
Separation confirmed.
MECO, nesse momento.
And there you go.
Com 2 minutos e 25 segundos.
Stage 1 and 2 separating.
MVAC ignition.
É a ignição do estágio 2.
Look at the MVAC ignition the MVAC engine coming to life.
That's great. You are seeing the stage 1 booster do its flip. And now the engine bell of the MVAC engine.
As imagens aí estão do estágio 1.
This is a camera shot of stage 1 here, again on its way back to Earth.
Preparando então para a volta então do retorno à Terra.
In just a couple of seconds, we're going to see the payload fairing jettison.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Separação então da carga, né, do dispositivo de proteção da carga.
Of the SWOT spacecraft, and you can see the fairing is gone at this point in time.
Another camera shot here of the engine on the second stage, continuing to carry SWOT to its intended target. We have a couple of camera views of this engine here, so you might see
Stage 1 shutdown.
Yeah, and then you'll see it cycling through
Estamos acompanhando a missão
stage 2 engine, and as we get closer to the separation, it'll go back towards.
Lembrando que mais tarde, então, a partir das 18 horas, teremos a missão então White Spacex, missão O3D Power 1 às 18 horas.
Doing what they were expecting them to do.
And we're hoping to get a video of stage 1 landing. So sometimes we don't always get it because of it's coming in so fast, and sometimes it's not captured. So occasionally, sometimes we don't get it all the way, but we're hoping to get a good video this time.
T plus 4 minutes and 10 seconds into the launch of SWOT, and we've had a nominal ascent so far, no issues to report. Again, this is a video of a live shot of the engine on stage 2. SWOT stands for Surface, Water and Ocean Topography, and this will be the first mission to provide high-definition data on more than 90% of the water on our planet's surface. It's a joint mission between NASA and CNES, France's space agency, with contributions from both the Canadian and UK space agencies. SWOT is the 4th NASA LSP science mission to launch from Vandenberg Space Force Base, and the 6th LSP science mission overall to launch on a Falcon 9, Denton.
Yes, and we got a lot more missions coming up on the Falcon.
Yeah, to see the partnership really grow for you too. I mean, again, you really work from SpaceX from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely, and seeing their evolution over the years has been amazing to watch.
So coming up, we're going to see the booster begin its entry burn soon, and again, that entry burn is to slow it down as it approaches Earth for the landing here back at the base, instead of a drone ship.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome to see it come back to land. As I mentioned before, seeing it landing right very close to where it took off from is awesome.
So then how does this work? So again, we're going to have the entry burn that slows it down, and there's a landing burn, right?
Yeah, so you have the boost back burn that kind of gets it back towards the launch pad, and then the entry burn kind of slows it down as it coming into the atmosphere, and then you have the landing burn that puts it down gently on the pad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, SpaceX has become real pros at landing their boosters.
Absolutely. And it's becoming routine for them at this point in time, and so this is just a normal course of business for them.
A missão então em conjunta com a NASA e SpaceX.
Again, we are looking live at stage 2.
Stage 1 entry burn.
We just heard the call out for stage 1 entry burn.
Estágio 1 já então iniciou o processo de reentrada. Podem ver aí na tela.
Yeah, so you can see those hypersonic grid fins illuminated by the flame from the booster.
Entrada concluída com 6 minutos e 20 segundos de missão.
You see that the screen went black there. That's because they just shut down the engine.
That's correct.
Both stages are
as
on
planned.
Trajectories.
But I was talking about those hypersonic grid fins that you see.
O lançamento ocorreu às 8 horas e 47 minutos no horário de Brasília.
Now that we're done with the
Base
engine
de
burn, the
Vandenberg,
next burn
na
is the
Califórnia.
landing burn. It's just one engine, right, just before it touches down.
Correctly, just gently set it down on the pad.
The next milestone for the second stage is going to
Stage
be
1 is transonic.
SECO 1.
7 minutos.
Yeah, and SECO 1 is the first shutdown of the second stage engine. And then
Lembrando que nosso tempo de missão de hoje é de em torno de 52 minutos e 28 segundos. E aí, portanto, daqui a pouco está tendo instante o pouso do primeiro estágio.
Coming in for its landing burn there.
Again, the grid fins moving ever so slightly to make sure that it's coming down exactly how they want it to come down.
E aí o pouso.
You can see the pad coming into view.
There it is. Wow!
And then the sonic booms.
Então, com 7 minutos e 35 segundos de missão, pousou o primeiro estágio.
Perfect. Oh.
Às 8 horas e 55 minutos no horário de Brasília, o primeiro estágio então pousa em segurança na base de Vandenberg.
And we get to use this booster again.
Yeah. Again, this is the 6th flight of this booster.
That's right.
Okay. So we are still awaiting again that shutdown
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Of the second
8 minutos e 10 segundos de missão nesse momento. Dentro de instante, então, vamos atingir o ponto de órbita.
Pacific Ocean, just west of the southern tip of Baja California.
Primeiro ponto de órbita.
Where we want it to be, following that well thought out planned trajectory.
Yep, and the team is reporting back. Everything's looking nominal. Stage 2, it's right where it's supposed to be, and looking good.
Dentro de instantes.
Back shutdown.
And we should see MVAC shutdown come up
então,
here
aí com 8 minutos e 35 segundos, atingimos aí o nosso primeiro ponto de órbita, SECO 1.
Yep, SECO 1.
Nominal parking orbit.
Confirmed.
Então, que é o primeiro desligamento então, do estágio 1.
It's flying south from where it just launched, and it'll continue to fly south down towards Antarctica.
Agora, o nosso próximo ponto de ignição, né, do estágio 2 daqui a 43 minutos e 22 segundos de missão.
You can see that it is shut down there from that view, and this is a view of the spacecraft. Again, because the payload fairing has been jettisoned, you see SWOT right there on your screen. Exposed now that we don't need the payload fairing to safely get it out of the atmosphere.
Yeah, correct. And once the whole purpose of the fairing is to protect it while the vehicle is flying through the atmosphere at super speeds. And then once you get up out of the atmosphere, there's nothing to harm the spacecraft, so you can jettison that extra weight and give your vehicle a lot more performance once you get rid of that extra weight.
Okay. The engine not glowing orange as it had before because, again, it is shut off, so it will coast for about 30 minutes with SWOT attached to it before some maneuvers are needed to keep it on the right trajectory, again, to get it in the orbit that we want it in. So Denton and I are going to be back then with you to walk you through those operations, but for now, we're going to send it back to Raquel and Nadia, who I'm sure are very excited to talk about how the experience launched today.
That is right, Megan and Denton. Just 10 minutes ago, we watched a spectacular launch from Vandenberg here in California. Nadia, describe what was going through your mind at that time.
What a spectacular, truly spectacular launch. It was a very bright splash on the sky, and a very loud one, too. What an entrance. Welcome to the era of SWOT. Very excited.
We had some cheering going on here at the desk.
Yes, and the car went off, yes.
Yeah, we had car alarms going off. It was really exciting here for our
E aí, então, dentro de instantes, aí, após 43 minutos aí de missão, vamos ter o segundo ponto de ignição.
SWOT stands for Surface, Water and Ocean Topography. The satellite will survey nearly all the water on Earth's surface in unprecedented detail. SWOT will provide insights into how the ocean influences climate change, how a warming world affects lakes and rivers, and how communities can better prepare for disasters like floods And we are covering every angle of the SWOT mission, from the new data the satellite will provide to how it is paving the way for future NASA Earth missions.
Então, o SWOT ele vai fazer toda a parte aí de monitoramento de rios e lagos, né? E faz aí, então, além da, também de regiões costeiras e também fazer monitoramento de corrente marítima.
Planning for future generations requires us
understanding how much
water we have.
And we need to understand the water cycle in a lot of detail, and SWOT will provide that for us. My name is Tahani Amar.
I'm Cedric David.
Mark Simard.
Christine Jabara, and I'm an integration test engineer.
Isso aí é pouquinho da equipe aí do
I'm one of the principal investigators for SWOT.
SWOT is an Earth orbiting satellite. It stands for Surface Water Ocean Topography.
SWOT will, for the first time, make measurement of water surface elevation, not only on the ocean, but also on the lakes and rivers of the entire globe.
This in itself will be a scientific revolution.
Collaborations and relationship build bridges, and SWOT will be that bridge across the world.
SWOT is being designed jointly by NASA and the French Space Agency, with help from Canada and the UK. I was born in France, so SWOT is a match made in heaven for me.
Coming to work every day, it's always really nice to know that the system that we're building will collect science data that will help people.
I think finally I found a meaning to all of my research.
I believe SWOT will create a lot of peace because we all need water.
Now more than ever, it's important to recognize that water connects us all, and it might be the one thing that unites us all.
Really see how hard your team has worked there.
Yeah, we have a great team, you know, we gel really well together. With scientists, we dream, and engineers make our science fiction dreams come true, and then collectively we make this NASA magic.
Nesse momento, então, 9 horas no horário de Brasília.
For the, you know, for the good of humanity and science.
Estamos aí já com tempo de missão de 13 minutos e 30 segundos.
Nadia and I had to go tap into our athletic skills for this one. Take a look.
De 30 minutos, vamos ter aí o segundo ponto, então, de ignição do estágio 2.
That's right, Raquel. We're trying to explain how the heart of the SWOT mission works, which is a new instrument, a radar interferometer, which we lovingly call Karen. So Karen has 2 antennas separated by a 10-meter boom. One of the antenna transmits a signal that bounces back from the Earth's surface and received by 2 antennas with a little bit delay and out of sync. Now, Karen uses this information to compute the distance between the satellite and the Earth's surface and the calculated water height. So let's see how we can explain it with the basketball. If you don't mind standing there, feet away from me.
All right, is right here pretty good?
This is perfect. Okay. And we will
vamos fazer a demonstração de como vai funcionar, então,
a
parte de mapeamento aí da SWOT.
Okay.
Yep. So what are we seeing here right now?
We're seeing how the ball, which is our radar beam, bounces over the Earth's surface, and by knowing the range, the distance, and we compute the height of the water surface.
So the ocean isn't a flat surface, there's waves. Like, how do you calculate that?
That's right. Let's bring a box.
Okay.
So did you notice when the water is a little bit higher that the ball returns to the antenna, to us, a little bit faster? That's how we know that we're retrieving topography, just like in the name of the mission. A satellite is doing thousands of bounces per second to capture the data on both sides from both antennas over a wide strip on the ground, about 30 miles, 50 kilometers wide. And then once we do enough of those stripes, we'll eventually cover the whole globe.
Nadia, I could really hear your excitement and passion for SWOT in that package. Why are you so excited for this new technology?
Yeah, it's a really pivotal moment, I think, for our space science industry as we are testing new technology with SWOT. This is our first in-flight demonstration for the SAR interferometer, and this opens a new way of observing Earth water height. So yes, it is a pivotal moment, and I'm very excited about it.
16 minutos já de missão.
Like you mentioned before, the scientific heart of SWOT satellite is the Ka band radar interferometer, or CARIN, and it measures the height of water on Earth. Jasmine is live at the Hawk's Nest to learn more about how the technology was built.
That is right, Raquel. We're back at the Hawk's Nest, now joined by Ava Peral, the lead systems engineer for the CARIN instrument on SWOT. Welcome, Ava.
Hi.
We are so glad to have you here. That launch just lit up the sky. What did you think?
Oh, it was impressive, really impressive.
It really was. It was beautiful. So you work on the CARIN instrument. Can you tell me what sets that apart from other instruments?
Yeah, so CARIN is a radar, and NASA has launched radars before to study the ocean from space. But CARIN is a very special type of radar. It's a radar interferometer. That means that the signal that bounces off the Earth is received simultaneously by two antennas. These two antennas are separated by a long distance, about half the size of a tennis court, and they have to be positioned very precisely to levels that are like micrometers. So we're talking about the width of a hair. So you can imagine that adds a lot of complexity to the SWOT mission, but it is that technology that enables the resolution and the accuracy that we're expected to achieve with SWOT of the Earth's water.
Right, so we're seeing things in a precision that we've never had before, which is very exciting and complex. So were there any challenges that your team faced while creating CARIN?
Yes, CARIN has been pushing the envelope in many, many different fronts. I can give you many examples. One, I just told you before about the mechanical precision that we need to have positioning these two antennas. We also have a very high power amplifier. We need an enormous amount of power to be able to get that signal back to the satellite from the Earth at a level that is detectable by the radar. And that level of power at our frequency from space is by itself a technological achievement. We also have the radar produces a massive amount of data. In fact, over 60 terabytes of data every single day. And that's a lot of hard drives, as you can imagine. So we really need to reduce that data volume so that it's manageable and we can downlink it to the ground. And for that, we're doing some fairly unique signal processing in the radar in space. So all of those are really achievements.
You and your team should be very happy with this achievement. And Ava, you yourself have been working on this for a decade. How does it feel? You know, I know those last few weeks can be like a race to the finish line. What is it like that you just saw this launch?
Well, for me, it's been my project since I started at JPL. It's been actually over 13 years. So this is really a very exciting moment for me.
Estamos aí aguardando o segundo ponto de ignição do estágio 2, que será então no tempo de 43 minutos e 22 segundos de emissão.
We need to make sure that the data is valid, it has the accuracy that we're expecting, and that's going to be a very difficult
Porque então vamos atingir aí uma órbita de quase 900 km.
Thank you.
Raquel, back to you.
Thank you, Jasmine and Ava. Let's get to the
Lembrando que mais tarde, então, a partir das 18 horas, e neste canal, no nosso segmento, então, o UPTV in Space, vamos ter aí a missão O3 TM Power 1.
Oh, hi, Mark. NASA can see different aspects of water from space.
A partir das 18 horas.
How hot is the water, how the temperature, the
Daqui a
surface temperature of
23
the water
minutos.
is, how salty is our water, salinity of
Então, daqui a 23 minutos aí vamos ter o nosso segundo ponto de ignição do estágio 2.
We can see the volume or the height of water with satellites like SWOT, for example.
Neste momento, então, a gente está aí, no caso, respondendo perguntas.
So we can see different aspects of water from space.
Foram feitas, então, sobre o
So many different ways to see water. And we also have some social media questions coming in. We have, how many times per day will SWOT orbit the Earth?
So on average,
SWOT phenomenal orbit is 21 a day quantas vezes?
And we have another one coming in for you now.
Então faz a
See, how accurate is the equipment when measuring the current sea level from space? Meters, centimeters, millimeters, nanometers? We're really getting into that.
that we're targeting centimetric accuracy of sea level measurements from space, which is a truly breakthrough. It's a 10x improvement of what we are currently doing. Yes.
Now you're doing such a good job answering these questions. We have another one coming in for you. What is ocean topography, and how does it work with SWOT?
Well, think of it, ocean topography, just like mountains and valley. Like I was driving here from LAX to Lompoc, just like mountains and valleys on the ground, you see hills and dips on the ocean surface. So think of it as well.
Great explanation. We have another question for you too. Let's get to this one. Will you be able to tell how clean the water is?
So we will be able to make some interpretation of water quality and its chemical composition, but we're mostly focusing on the volume, storage, and the height of the water.
Então, a parte da topografia oceânica é similar, então.
Will SWOT data
a parte
help
de
in
topografia
flash flooding more
terrestre,
effectively than current technology?
vales e
We are with the rising sea levels, we do see more frequent inundations, including those related to flash flooding or sunny days flooding. So, and SWOT will continue the legacy of prediction of flood events related to the rising oceans.
We have one more social question for you to get to. Will this technology also help determine how much drinkable water is currently available?
Yes, we are targeting fresh water in our reservoirs in lakes
Então, neste momento, estamos acompanhando então a missão SWOT,
que é a Surface Water
and Ocean Topography.
Yes, drinking and available water for usage.
Oh, you just offered some great insight to SWOT. Thank you, Nadia. Now, before SWOT data, researchers could only collect information on a few thousand rivers and lakes.
Então, eles vão fazer coletagem de dados
more than a million.
para
Here is a look at how that kind of data
monitoramento então
can have a
de
huge impact
elevação
on people's
dos
daily
rios,
lives.
lagos e regiões costeiras.
SWOT is the Surface Water and Ocean Topography satellite. It's an international satellite that's going to give us this complete view of the surface water here on Earth. What's happening in the lakes, reservoirs, rivers, and also in the ocean. It'll tell us about how sea level is rising along coastlines and in the open ocean, and really give us a good understanding of how surface water is moving about the Earth.
Our goal is to provide data, forecasts, watches, and warnings at some key locations like the Willamette River in Portland, which is a major U.S. city that historically has seen some catastrophic floods. The better quality of the data that we have that feeds into our models, the better the forecasts are going to be, the more time that people will have to protect themselves and their property and ultimately our communities. A tool like SWOT is going to help us with making these really difficult projections and predictions for the future.
This is one of many reservoirs here in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. It is a human-made lake. It is a reservoir operated by the Army Corps of Engineers. The water managers here, they use, weather prediction, they use hydrologic models, and the hope is that data like SWOT might be incorporated into those predictions to help them better understand this water body's filling and we don't want to overtop the dams, might want to start letting water out really quickly. They have to make a lot of complicated decisions. When you get a big storm event, we want to keep the community safe in the best way that we can. So how do we best manage operation of these reservoirs in terms of putting water out downstream to prevent flooding at a larger scale?
In lots of states, there are, hundreds, thousands of reservoirs, and many of those reservoirs don't have automated gauging available. And so these agencies have to kind of estimate how much water is in them and how that's changing. And with SWOT, they can just monitor that directly from space.
For us in Alaska, we have many, many rivers, and only a few of them are measured, or as we say, gauged. If we have data on when flooding is occurring or might occur, we can get crews out there to look at the bridge to make sure that the bridge and the associated roadway are still safe. If we can start collecting data on all rivers above a certain size remotely through satellites, it really opens up the amount of rivers that we can help understand what happens
Estamos
when they
acompanhando
flood,
então aí
how
a
they
missão
flood.
SWOT.
And
Nesse
that
momento aí estamos chegando
improves our ability
a
to
26
manage our
minutos de missão.
infrastructure and to design new infrastructure.
O lançamento
That is
então
where SWOT
ocorreu
will
com
really make a
sucesso
big
aí às
difference.
8 horas e 47 minutos no
One of
horário
the
de
partners we're
Brasília,
working with is the Department of Defense, and they're trying
na
to fill
base de
gaps
Vandenberg,
in
na
the data that they
Califórnia.
have along the coastlines.
O lançamento então foi feito pelo veículo Falcon 9 da Spacex.
Our military is obviously very concerned about what's happening on global scales, and they have installations across the globe. So SWOT will potentially provide an opportunity to fill in some of those gaps, allow them to make the impact
E
assessments
lembrando
that
que
they
mais
need
tarde, a
for sea
partir
level
das
rise in their
18 horas,
facilities. So
vamos ver
trying
aí
to understand
a
and give them the
transmissão
information
para a
they need to
missão
plan for and then potentially adapt to these changes is really critically
da
important.
SpaceX também.
Coastal
missão então
wetlands
será
like
na
the Mississippi
Califórnia,
River
na
Delta
Flórida.
are extremely important because it acts as a buffer between us and the threatening ocean.
Informações também sobre a missão que será feita na base de Alcântara com um veículo sul-coreano.
Because of its high
É de
spatial
que
resolution, we'll be able to resolve
está tudo
water
certo então
surface
para o
elevation
lançamento
right
do
at
dia
the coast.
19, na
So this is quite
segunda-feira,
important because as sea level
às 6 horas
rises,
da
the
manhã,
ocean will migrate
porém,
into
devido então à
the
baixa
land,
qualidade
bringing
da
more
transmissão
salt
de
into the
sinal
land.
de
So it
internet
threatens
no
the
local,
infrastructure, the
não será
biodiversity,
possível
the
ser feita
wetlands
então
along the
a
coast.
transmissão
Hopefully, the
da
types
missão
of models that we're
na base
producing
de
can
Alcântara.
support how they decide to manage the river delta. And
E depois
SWOT
terá a
on its
divulgação
own will
dos
allow
vídeos aí
us
do
to
lançamento.
upscale these types of studies to the world.
I'm really excited about the new information we'll get from SWOT and how we can start to couple it to some of the needs that we see, both at the coastal interface and also on land. I think we can potentially see some immediate impact once SWOT's launched in these communities.
Só para constar também, né, que somos o único canal brasileiro aí a transmitir a transmissão SWOT.
SWOT is an international collaborative effort not only between NASA and CNES, but with contributions from the Canadian Space Agency and the UK
É o nosso
Space
objetivo aqui nesse
Agency.
canal, então,
We'll hear from the
matemática
UK Space Agency
com
in a
o UP, né?
moment, but joining us now
No
is
segmento,
Karen
então,
Tomlinson
UPTV,
with the Canadian
em
Space
Space,
Agency.
ele mostrar
Thank
para
you for
vocês
joining us
todos os
today.
lançamentos
Thanks for having me.
para você.
Now, why did your agency choose to be involved with the SWOT
Então,
mission?
lançamentos e todos os
Contributing
momentos.
to the first ever
História.
satellite to survey most
Também.
of the water on the planet is truly an exceptional opportunity for us. Water is such an important resource and is in so many ways linked with
Esse é o nosso
climate
objetivo.
change. And we're so happy to work with our international
No nosso
partners
canal,
again
né,
on
além da parte de segmento
solving
espacial,
issues
nós
that
temos a
matter to
parte
all
do
of
segmento
us.
também
SWOT is
de programação,
particularly important to Canada.
caso
We have the
específico
longest
Python,
shoreline on the planet.
e a parte, lógico,
And we have over a million
principal do nosso
lakes.
canal, que é de
It's so
matemática,
important to
né, já que eu
monitor
sou
the change of
professor
those
então,
lakes
de
over
matemática.
time. SWOT is really going to benefit Canadians for strategic water management, but it will support humanity in the face of climate change.
Really is an international effort, as we say. Can you talk a little bit more about CSA's contributions to the mission?
I'd love to.
Já estamos aí com 29 minutos e 10 segundos de emissão.
Component to the Karen instrument. They're called the Extended Interaction Klystrons, built by CPI Canada. It's the high-powered amplifier that will help those Ka-band precision measurements for measuring the surface water. And so, in addition to the device that we are contributing, we have science researchers who've been involved with the SWOT science team, and they've been developing the objectives, and they're also working to deploy instruments to key sites across Canada.
Yes, Taryn, we enjoy working with Canadian scientists, and speaking of that, what is the
Então, dentro de mais alguns minutos aí, vamos ter então nosso segundo ponto de ignição do estágio.
So, we have some services,
tempo aí de
services in
43
Canada that
minutos
we'd
e
really
22
like to
segundos.
improve. And so, as I was mentioning, that shoreline navigation services to Canadians is going
E o
to
nosso
be very
deploy,
important. Weather forecasting is going to be very important as
o
well.
nosso deploy então está marcado no tempo
As
de
well as
52 minutos e
as I
28
mentioned, the
segundos.
lakes, and make sure that we
Então,
keep our
daqui a
eye
13
on
minutos,
the lake
vamos
measurements.
ter então nosso
Our
segundo ponto de
researchers are
ignição.
looking towards the north in helping northern communities as well. And so we're
Estamos aí
talking
então
about
sobre a
clean
região
water
da
supply. We're talking about water management for
Polo Sul, né, da região da
the
Antártida.
coastlines, for tides, and for estuaries,
Neste
and also
momento.
hydroelectricity. And I do want to mention, I'm so excited to see what Canadians will do with open
Né, a
science and open
altitude então do
data.
nosso deploy de hoje, da nossa carga de hoje de SWOT,
I want to know what
é
was
de
launch like for you
890
Well, it was
quilômetros.
exhilarating,
Então
and
aí
we
as
had
imagens do
cheers
SWOT.
and excitement outside. We were all outdoors, but what was
Estamos aí com as
specifically
imagens
exciting for me was to see the
do
return
estágio
of the
2 e do
booster
SWOT.
and that double sonic boom, and everybody jumped out of their skin. It was exhilarating. What a morning. Thank you so much. We're grateful to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today. It's early morning. Now, Beth Greenaway with the UK agency wasn't able to be on set with us, but she left this message.
The UK Space Agency has contributed to SWOT by enabling both our industry and our scientists to be part of the mission. We were approached by the French Space Agency, CNES, who are building the instrument for the mission. They needed a very complex bit of kit built in the UK, which essentially signals or moves the radar pulses around the instrument. And it was Honeywell in the UK that built this. In the UK, we're really fortunate to have some of the world-leading scientists who understand both the oceanography, how the ocean moves, and how satellites can be used to measure that. It's really exciting to be part of such a big, exciting mission. It takes a long, long time to come through to a launch in 2022. To be part of that journey on the policy side, enabling people to really do the best of British engineering and the best of British science, to be part of such a huge global water survey that's so important for climate change and is really going to make a difference to what we understand about our world.
All right, SWOT will measure the Earth's water on a global weather. It will take into account how much fresh water flows in and out of lakes, rivers, and back into the ocean. It will also look at shifts in sea level. Nadia, you have a demonstration that illustrates the importance of our water that involves a gallon of water.
That's
right here.
Right. We wanted to look a little
E aí
bit
tá,
of the
vamos fazer a
water storage,
demonstração
water
aí de
budget,
como eles vão
water
fazer
cycle, and we imagine that all the water on Earth
no
represented
caso aí
in
a
this gallon
representação aí da como medir aí o nível, certo?
and how the water moves. So ocean is the ultimate
Da água,
source
utilizando então um
of
galão
all
aí de
our
água.
water. Land does not produce its own water. All the water and moisture on land comes either directly from the ocean or subsequently recycled from it. And so some of it get back to the ocean, but some of it makes its way on land. Some of it is stored in the atmosphere. So if you just do a half a drop of your magic liquid, that would be representative of how much water is contained in our atmosphere. So not too much, right?
Yeah,
right.
A little bit.
So yes, and then about a tablespoon of that magic liquid, and I'll let you do the math in terms of how many. That much would be representative of how much available fresh water we have on land. So about 0.5% only. So also not that much. You know, most of it is contained in our salty ocean. So we humans, an ecosystem, we depend on this steady supply of water and moisture from ocean to land. And if the ocean supply is interrupted, we have droughts or even fires like you guys have in California that you experience perhaps yourself, or if the ocean supply of water is too much, we get floods and inundation, just like people like us on the East Coast. So this movement and the supply-demand chain in this completeness would be seen by SWOT, just like you and I seeing it in this gallon.
Yeah, and what if too much water comes back into the ocean, as you were kind of describing?
Yeah, well, then the ocean becomes higher. The volume of the ocean rises, yeah.
And how much would it rise?
Well, currently we're observing about 3.4 millimeter of global mean sea level rise. I don't know if that makes sense. So in gallons, that would be about 300 trillion of gallons a year. That's how much water we add every year into the ocean.
Okay, that is a giant number. How can you help put that to
Visualize?
scale?
Well, I mean, I guess if you line up all these jars, you would cover the distance from a sun
Estamos ao
to
vivo então com a
Pluto
missão
and
SWOT,
back.
né? Estamos fazendo aí a demonstração de como fazer então a medição, né?
Well, thank you so much, Nadia, for this.
Como é feito então?
A SWOT
Como será
technology
feita a
tracks
medição
changes
ali
in water volume over time,
do
like you
nível, né,
mentioned, and we will get a
do
better
oceano, né, através
understanding of
então
Earth's water cycle.
do
That data can be used to help prepare communities for rising seas and changing coastlines. Let's learn more about Earth's water.
Earth has about 370 quintillion gallons of water. If all that water was inside a single drop, it'd be 860 miles wide. Of course, it's not. Earth's water can be found all over the planet. Earth's water budget tells us where that water is and what form it takes. NASA has a fleet of satellites studying the location and movement of Earth's water, each designed to measure certain types of water. Some measure the movement of groundwater or ocean currents, while new missions like SWOT and NISAR will also fill gaps in our knowledge by measuring fresh water and possible hazards. Together, these missions help bring NASA's water budget and cycle into focus. So next time you feel a drop of rain on your face, imagine all the places that water might have been during the last few billion years and where it might be in the next.
You know, that video really shows off NASA's
36
family fleet,
minutos
doesn't
e
it?
50 segundos de missão.
Yes, and let's jump back into
Dentro de
questions
instantes,
for
então,
kids
vamos
and
ter aí
social
o segundo
media.
ponto de
And,
ignição do
speaking of
estágio 2.
family, looks like we have a special surprise for you, Nadia.
Ooh, okay.
Hi NASA, my name is Kira. I'm 80 years old. I live in Washington, D.C. I heard that sea levels are rising. What I want to know is if me and all puppies are safe. Kira out.
Who did we just see there, Nadia?
Well, hi Kira. Yeah, this is Kira, my daughter. So I hope that your parents will keep you safe and your puppies as well. But when you grow up by 2050, I think sea level, I believe, would be about half a meter high in Washington, D.C., which is about 20 inches of extra water where you live. And so that would be your job to keep your puppies safe. And actually, Raquel, NASA has a very useful tool where we could demonstrate and predict sea level rise 10, 20, 50, even 100 years from now. Not just for here in Washington, D.C., but all major coastal cities all over the globe. And I see that we have,
Só lembrando que o lançamento ocorreu com sucesso aí.
Very effective, yeah.
Foi lançado então o SWOT, foi lançado pelo Falcon 9, às 8h47 da manhã, no horário de Brasília.
Oh, actually, we have a photo. This one is a picture. We have a space fan.
Na base de Vandenberg, na Califórnia.
His mom, Lucy, says he has been a fan since birth.
Wow, this is not far along, right?
Great. That is a very cute picture. Cute. Now we have a social question to get to for you. Let's see.
Lembrando que ainda hoje, a partir das 18 horas, teremos live então, para a missão O3D M-Power 1. Ainda hoje. E amanhã vamos ter live para a missão Starlink e no domingo a primeira live para a missão Hot Flag. Primeira missão então no estado da Virgínia, nos Estados Unidos. Primeira missão do Electron no estado da Virgínia. Tudo isso ainda essa semana.
In France multiple times, so both agencies contributed major hardware instrumentation for the observatory.
And the questions just keep coming in. We have another social question for you to answer. Take a look. This one is how long will SWOT be
no dia 19, né, segunda-feira, às 6 horas da manhã, tem lançamento então na base de Alcântara, no Brasil, aqui no Brasil. Mas não teremos live, então, infelizmente, devido então à baixa qualidade do sinal de internet na região. 40 minutos. Faltando então aproximadamente aí 3 minutos para o segundo ponto de ignição do estágio 2.
I will soon be working with the French government to study a link between water management and spatial infrastructure. It's an exciting subject.
Well, thank you. We think so too.
Estamos aí só aguardando então o segundo ponto de ignição do estágio 2, lembrando que o deploy, a colocação de órbita então do SWOT, está previsto no tempo de 52 minutos e 28 segundos.
validate the data prior to the delivery of a fully validated data set. This is the experiment that Sandra mentioned that we're going through at NASA. It's called Open Science, and we are delivering and sharing pre-validated data sets with the science community. So all hands on deck. If you want to be a hydrologist or work with infrastructure as this person who asked this question, welcome.
Yes, data for all. Thank you so much, Nadia. We still have time to get your questions answered. Simply post your question online with the hashtag #TrackingWorldWater. Now, we are just over 41 minutes since launch. Commentators Megan Cruz and Denton Gibson are tracking the next milestones on this mission.
2 minutos para o segundo ponto de ignição.
Hello again, guys, from inside the Mission Director Center here at Vandenberg Space Force Base in Central California. We're actually sitting right next to where Nadia and Raquel are, because this is where we can listen in to the teams who are still working the launch.
Já estamos aí com as imagens aí do estágio 2.
Minutes since liftoff from Vandenberg Space Force Base. We had a nominal ascent, and now we are looking at live video of the second stage, and the engine there not burning red hot anymore because it's been coasting now, right, for about 30 minutes. Denton?
Yeah, and what's happening right now
então, nesse momento ele está ganhando então altitude. Como vocês podem então acompanhar aí nas imagens de telemetria.
Those densified propellants, which is down in the neighborhood of minus 300 degrees. So you see what's happening.
42 minutos.
Chilling the engine down
and
getting ready for
então minuto para o segundo ponto de
ignição. It's going to be a very short burn that's coming up, and this burn is essentially just kind of doing a final orbit adjustment before getting into spacecraft separation. So that's what's happening right now, and we should hear the stage.
Estamos aguardando aí a confirmação do segundo ponto de ignição.
Engine restart coming up here in about a minute or so.
And so we just saw a map there that's a trajectory showing where stage 2 is, and right now it is just south of South Africa along the coast of Antarctica. So it traveled pretty far in just those 30 minutes.
And as soon as we get in range of the next ground station, the engine will start up again.
Segundos aí então para o segundo ponto de ignição.
Stage
22 segundos.
Separation will occur.
And what ground station are we trying to hit?
So the ground station that we're kind of targeting right now is hard to be stuck, which is on the
10 segundos para o ponto de
ignição. South Africa. So that's the ground station we want to get in range to kind of capture that spacecraft separation.
And so again, we need this
segundo ponto de
burn
ignição
to
iniciado.
get it to.
Yep.
All right, and we see the engine lighting now. Again, the second burn of the second stage.
E shutdown.
Still carrying SWOT.
It'd be a very short burn.
E ciclo 2. Essa foi bem rapidinho, só para ganhar velocidade aí para
engine shutdown. And we just
para então ganhar transferência de órbita.
Nominal orbit, so which means we are kind of on the correct path to go to spacecraft separation.
I do just love that we see all this live video, and we expect to get some live video of spacecraft separation again in just less than 10 minutes.
Então, daqui a então no tempo de 52 minutos e 28 segundos, vamos ter aí o nosso deploy.
Thank you, Megan and Denton. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory led the U.S. portion of this international mission. JPL's director, Lori Leshin, joins us now. Welcome, Lori.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you both. What a fabulous job you're doing.
Thank you. Well, this is your first launch as
Lembrando sempre de deixar o like, né, e se inscrever no canal.
Oh, I'm thrilled.
E ativar também os sininhos aí,
it's been an extraordinary
as notificações aí para as próximas
be on console and then run outside and actually watch the launch, which was great, and hear those sonic booms when the booster came back. Our launch teams have been incredible. I'm just so thrilled for the SWAT team, who's been, I've only been at JPL for 6 months. The SWAT team's been working on this for so many years, and thrilled for an exciting mission to come. Of course, we still need that acquisition of signal. We're not getting ahead of ourselves, but so happy that my first launch is an Earth Science launch, because this is the planet we care the most
preparando para o deploy.
While JPL is known for operating space missions, how much of JPL's work is devoted to studying Earth?
You know, it's more than people think, right? People know us for cool Mars rovers and helicopters and for orbiting Jupiter and these and wonderful telescopes that look into deep space. And of course, we do all of that. But in fact, with the launch of SWOT, we now have 15 Earth science missions currently operating, either dedicated missions or big instruments on other missions. So we've got a lot of eyes on Earth at JPL. And the thing about them is, whenever we do something at JPL, we want it to be technologically advanced. So we're always the ones trying to really push the boundaries of what's possible, and that's really what SWOT's going to do. It's a whole new way of measuring Earth's water, and we always want to be pushing the boundaries of innovation. With all those 15 missions, now we've got about 7 more that we're working on that will be launching in the next few years. So a lot more Earth science work ahead of us.
So what are those next 7 missions that you mentioned, Lori? What's in the pipeline?
Yeah, so there's 4 of them are going to launch in the next couple of years. So the first 3 are fairly small, actually, small missions that have kind of focused objectives, but really important things like looking at aerosols, particles in the air, working with actually local medical professionals in cities to try and understand the impact of aerosols on health. What a really interesting idea, right? We have a mission that's going to be looking at the heat at the poles of the Earth to try and understand better sort of the thermal environment there, so that as we the poles really help drive circulation and climate change, and so understanding that environment is really, really important. And the third one is actually going to work on methane super emitters, one of the most powerful greenhouse gases. We're going to be detecting it with greater sensitivity than ever from space, so that we can actually mitigate methane emissions, which is super exciting. So those are all 3 kind of small ones. But the next really big Earth science mission, sort of on the scale of SWOT, is a mission called NISAR, which is a collaboration, NASA's first major collaboration with the Indian Space Agency. So exciting. And if SWOT is focused on water, NISAR is focused on land. It's really going to be a mission that's going to teach us help us sense and detect changes in land that are affiliated with things like earthquakes and volcanoes. Oh, I so wish it was up there right now as Mauna Loa is erupting. But it's going to help us see those things better from space. It's going to help us understand vegetation all across the land and many, many other applications that are going to be so valuable to folks. So we've got the water covered with SWOT, and we'll have the land covered with NISAR.
Lori, that sounds like so many great missions ahead. Thank you so much for joining us today. When LSP selects a rocket for a mission, they have to take into account just how hot it gets. Jasmine spoke with a thermal engineer about protecting the precious cargo.
Joining us now is Dave Purick. He is the lead thermal engineer for the SWOT mission. Thank you so much for being here, Dave.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here and talking a little bit about what we've been doing from SWOT from the thermal perspective.
Awesome, very exciting. So you focus on integrated thermal analysis, a big term. Can you break that down for us?
Absolutely. So an integrated thermal analysis is just like it sounds. You're integrating different entities. In this case, we're integrating a second stage launch vehicle model.
Para quem não sabe o que é deploy, né? É quando então a separação da carga do estágio 2. É no caso da colocação de órbita.
Making sure that one doesn't adversely affect the other.
Right, so you're really kind of protecting the spacecraft from the rocket and vice versa.
Absolutely. And so as part of an integrated thermal analysis, we're really running mathematical models to make temperature predictions on launch vehicles and spacecraft. And so what that entails is, as a thermal engineer, you're really worried about 3 different modes of heat transfer: radiation, conduction, and convection. So convection is, think of when you're outside and the wind is blowing, that's convection. So radiation, it's like the sun beating down on you, solar radiation. And then conduction is kind of like taking a coat hanger, unraveling it, holding the lighter up to one end, and then the heat will transverse down through that little coat hanger, and that's conduction through materials.
Right, a really good explanation of something complex there. I understand there's different challenges that could happen along the way too. Can you tell us what was unique or challenging about working on the SWOT mission?
Yeah, so when we're doing any of these assessments, the 3 main modes of heat transfer that I just mentioned, well, once you're in the vacuum of space, one of them goes away because you no longer have convection. You're in vacuum, and so for SWOT in particularly,
We had to face
Estamos
some
aí agora a 2
modeling
minutos
conversion challenges.
do
We
deploy.
are working with our European counterparts in Kness and Dallas, and they threw us a curveball pretty early on, and we didn't necessarily know what one of their software packages were, so we used a lot of really good teamwork and collaboration throughout the agency, and not just Kennedy Space Center and JPL, but we leveraged our resources up at Goddard Space Flight Center, who has done some of these conversions before. And it's just the type of community and teamwork that our niche little area of analysis has grown over the years.
Dave, Pierre, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Back to you.
We are nearing spacecraft separation. Let's go back to our commentators, Megan and Denton.
Yeah, we're about 51 minutes after launch, and now we are awaiting spacecraft separation. So SWOT, the spacecraft separated from Falcon 9's second stage.
Yes, and that'll occur as we get
imagens
closer
aí
to
ao
the
vivo
Horário
de
de
novo
Brasília
do
station.
estágio
And now
2
you see a
e a
good
carga
video
deploy.
there of the SWOT spacecraft looking up,
Então,
and then there's another
então,
cycling
novamente.
through of the MVAC engine. So yeah,
Estamos a
once
menos
we
de
get to
minuto do
the point
deploy.
where we separation occur, hopefully we'll get a good video of that. And now there's a slight chance we may get acquisition of signal from the spacecraft at that point in time, but
Estamos
that's not
aguardando
the
então a
primary
confirmação do
opportunity to
deploy.
get it.
Sure. So you see the telemetry data right there, stage 2, just at the tip of South Africa. You were mentioning a ground station there.
Mm-hmm.
It's because when the spacecraft separates from the Falcon 9 second stage, we want to make sure we know where it is,
Yes.
and we do that by using the ground station,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, and the ground
Energy
station is what is
20
capturing the
segundos para
video that
deploy.
you see in here, as well as the telemetry coming from the vehicle. So that's how the team down on the ground is able to see everything in the, that's happening in the data and actually get the video as well.
So you see the SWOT spacecraft there.
10
SWOT stands
segundos.
for Surface, Water, and Ocean Topography, and is a joint mission by NASA and CNES, France's space agency. They had contributions from both the Canadian and UK space agencies.
Estamos aguardando a
Yeah, but once
confirmação do deploy.
separation occurs,
Payload separation.
Deploy.
There you
And
go.
Então,
yeah,
às
good video.
9 horas e 40
And we're
minutos
hearing
no
some
horário de Brasília,
cheering
tivemos
here
então
at the Mission Directors
nosso
Center at
deploy do
Vandenberg Space
SWOT
Force Base. I'm
confirmado com
sure
sucesso.
the spacecraft team for CNES is also cheering in their Mission Control Center. You see the spacecraft floating away right now from the second stage.
And at this point, the launch vehicle's job is done. So the second stage will just basically
Então aí,
kind of
portanto, o deploy
back off,
realizado
move
com
away from
sucesso, a missão aí,
the spacecraft and kind of take itself out
mais
of
uma missão
orbit, just so we don't have
SpaceX
any junk
junto com a
floating
NASA,
around after it's completed this mission.
realizada com sucesso.
Now, it's just so great to see all this
Yes.
live video. I'm still just watching it amazed.
Então, às 9
you know,
horas e
just
40
to see
minutos,
it.
no horário de
This
Brasília,
is a
tivemos
moment
então o
that so
nosso
many people
deploy
have been waiting for,
do
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. As we mentioned
do
before, a
Space,
lot
Water
of these people have
and
been
Ocean
working this
Topography.
mission for 20 years.
Right.
And nice, we getting a good view of, you can kind of see the sun there from the view of the second stage, looking at SWOT floating away, and you kind of see the sun coming into view there. It's an awesome sight to see.
Now, as a member of NASA's Launch Services Program, Denton, how does it feel to be part of a program that facilitates so much great science like SWOT?
I mean, it's always exciting to see that, you know, we kind of play a role in helping enable a lot of the science that these spacecrafts provide for us, and that, you know, help us in our daily lives. And it's kind of, and sitting here in console is kind of, you know, it's exciting and nervousness at the same time. You're excited that, you know, you get into this point in the mission and you actually get to see this launch and to see the spacecraft go on its journey. And it's nervous at the same time because you want to make sure everything goes right. And the team and the engineering team has done a tremendous job of making sure that this mission has been successful.
And so we were saying again, the next step, right, is the team confirming a signal with the spacecraft. Oh, here, this is a shot of
Estamos
the
aí
CNES
aguardando
team.
a confirmação,
Again,
então,
this is
a
a joint
captura do
mission
sinal
between
do
NASA and
SWOT.
CNES, France's space agency. So I'm sure everyone there was cheering the same that they were here at the Mission Director Center once we saw the spacecraft float away.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll hear from the team in France that they have acquired signal from the spacecraft, and we'll be looking to hear that coming up soon, hopefully soon.
Agora estamos aguardando então, a confirmação do
is slated for T plus 1 hour and 18 minutes. You did mention that we might get some initial data around this time, but really what the team is marching towards is that 1 hour 18 minutes. That's when we really want to confirm signal, meaning that the spacecraft is healthy and is where we want it to be.
Yeah, that's an important step in this whole process. Is after the ride, it's kind of like you ride on a roller coaster, and you want to make sure after you get off, you get all your belongings, everything's looking good, and that's essentially what it is.
Horário de
We're
Brasília.
waiting to kind of hear confirmation that
Estamos aguardando só a confirmação então do recebimento do sinal do SWOT.
And everything went well with the ride.
Okay, so we got a couple of minutes to wait for that acquisition of signal. So until then, we'll send it back to Raquel and Nadia.
Thank you, Megan and Denton. We have some more questions to get to. The first is from a student who has a question, and
Quero
her
também
name
confirmação
is
também da sua
Micaela.
inscrição aqui no canal.
Hello, my name is Micaela, and I have 2 questions for you today. One is, how long will this mission take? And number 2 is, what is the range of accuracy with this technology? Thank you.
Some great questions there.
Yes, Micaela looks like a future engineer with a very smart question. So, Micaela, the prime mission timeline is 3 years. And
Então, o tempo de duração dessa missão do SWOT, né? Tempo de vida útil aí, é em torno de 3 anos.
Features, less than 1,000 kilometers, and for larger features, which we're going to use our other non-carrying altimeter, we're shooting about 3 centimeter accuracy and about 10 centimeters for inland waters. So great questions, Micaela.
Yes, an engineering career in her future.
Yep.
We also have some more social media questions to get to. Let's take a look at the first one. When will SWOT data be publicly released?
We'd have a first look at the data about nominally full 2023. This is where we are inviting our science community, Raquel, to help NASA to validate and take a first look at the data. We call it a pre-validated data sets. So don't write your Nature papers yet.
Okay.
But fully validated data are expected to be around the spring timeframe 2023.
Estamos só aguardando então a confirmação do sinal do SWOT.
Coming in here on social media. Alessandra asks, what will be the probe's data
Aí já
processing
estamos
centers?
aí com o tempo de
So the major processing data would be our French
58 minutos, né?
partners,
No tempo aí de
and then data
58
would be
minutos.
downlinked to JPL
A parte então
and
da
back. So this is,
SpaceX
again, a
já
team
se encerrou,
effort.
se encerrou aí no tempo de 52 minutos e 30 segundos, né? Com o deploy do
Will it
SWOT.
measure ocean depths at what resolution?
E foi às 9 horas e 40 minutos. Agora, neste exato momento, estamos só esperando aí a confirmação da captura então do sinal do SWOT.
And discover thousands of new mountains on the bottom of our oceans. So yes.
Let's get to the next question. Is there more water in the atmosphere of Earth than there is on all the surface of oceans on Earth? What amount if subterranean water is unknown currently? They're really asking you tough questions.
Yes, and I think maybe they just was excited with our
Neste momento, 9 horas e 46 minutos, no horário de
of course,
Brasília.
located
Estamos
in the
acompanhando então
ocean.
a
We just
missão
saw it in this
SWOT,
hour
o
gallon.
Space Water
And
and
the only
Ocean
tiny
Topography.
portion of the Earth global water cycle is
Ela
contained by the
então
atmosphere. So
ocorreu
atmosphere cannot
há
hold
uma
a
hora
lot of
atrás,
moisture, and but it's very
no horário de
effective
Brasília,
at transporting
na base de
water
Vandenberg,
between
na
the ocean and
Califórnia.
land.
Great, thank you, Nadia. Now, if you have a question to ask,
Estamos agora
post your question online
aguardando
with the hashtag
o momento então da captura do sinal do
Did a great job
SWOT.
answering those. SWOT will create the first comprehensive global survey of freshwater lakes, rivers, and reservoirs from space.
O deploy
Let's go to
ocorreu
Jasmine
às
live
9
at the
horas e
Hawk's
40
Nest, who
minutos
is with a
no horário
scientist
de
eager to
Brasília.
use the new data.
Thanks, Raquel. Yes, joining me now is Tamlin Pavelski, the SWOT Hydrology Science Lead. Thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
We are so excited
E
to
lembrando, né, que ainda hoje,
Tamlin, and right
às
now,
18 horas,
scientists really have to trek
teremos
into
live
the
para a
field to
missão
understand the data from
O3D
rivers and lakes. Tell
Power.
me, how is SWOT going to change that?
Oh my gosh, it's going to change it so much. So, you know, right now, if I go into the field,
E amanhã
for a field
teremos live
campaign, I
para a
might be able to
missão
go and
de
measure
farming.
a couple of
E no
rivers,
domingo,
a few
live
dozen
para a
lakes.
missão da
SWOT is going to be
Spacex.
able to see lakes all over the world in places I can't even get to, where it's just impossible. And so
Nesse momento, completamos aí 1 hora e 12 segundos
is
de
just
missão.
orders of magnitude above what we can do with just data on the ground. That said,
Estamos
even more
aguardando
powerful is going to be
a
combining
confirmação,
the
então,
kinds of
no
measurements we
final
can make on the ground
SWOT.
with the groundbreaking measurements we'll make with SWOT.
Exactly. So we're combining kind of the methods that we've already used with some new things from
Exactly.
SWOT. That is so exciting. And what are you most excited? What measurements are you most looking forward to from SWOT?
So I think I might be most looking forward to SWOT's measurements of lakes. So we're going to be able to measure simultaneously the water level in lakes and the area of lakes. We'll be able to see changes in volume. And we're not just going to be able to see that in a few lakes, right? Right now, maybe we can see a few tens of thousands of lakes using on-the-ground data. With SWOT, we're going to see millions. So it's like going to a more powerful
Estamos
telescope
aguardando a
where suddenly all
confirmação do
these new
sinal do
stars
SWOT.
appear.
Right. And when you say that figure millions, I mean, that's so hard to even picture, but it's really, really exciting. And how is SWOT going to help us understand how water moves worldwide? I mean, this is a global view.
Yeah, so I think a lot of us start learning about the water cycle really early on, you know, in elementary school or middle school maybe. And, you know, that's because it's so fundamental to how our planet works, and water is a precious resource for us. And SWOT is going to tell us about one of the most critical parts of the water cycle, which is surface water, right? So we have evaporation, right, off of the ocean and off the land. We have precipitation coming down. SWOT is going to help us put real numbers on how the amount of water flowing through rivers is changing over time and how climate change is affecting that.
Right. That is so exciting to see how this is all working together. Tamlin, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Awesome. Raquel, back to you.
Thank you. SWOT is going to measure how much water is on Earth, but also how it moves. We actually don't know the extent of some of the science that this is going to produce. And
Estamos
I'd
aguardando
like
só
to
a
introduce you to
confirmação
Christine
então
Gabara.
do
She's a
SWOT.
mechanical engineer
É do sinal
inspiring
então do
future
SWOT.
generations.
Coming to work every day, it's always really nice to know that the system that we're building will collect science data that will be spread publicly, that the data will help people. Hi, my name is Christine Jabara, and I'm an integration test engineer at JPL. SWOT is an Earth-orbiting satellite. It stands for Surface Water Ocean Topography, and it'll give us more accurate data on how the water levels, the freshwater and the saltwater levels, are changing with time. The day-to-day varies a lot. We're usually either setting up for a test, testing, breaking down from a test, or moving the spacecraft. The coolest parts of SWOT to me are the engineering bits that are slightly extreme. So I've really enjoyed working on the deployable antennas. It's nerve-wracking, but it's a well-rehearsed dance. And when the antennas actually deploy, they're really beautiful. They're moving slowly and intentionally, like a butterfly. I grew up in Houston, Texas. I was very lucky to be part of the Girl Scout sailing program, where they taught us not only how to sail, but they taught us the very basics of aerodynamics and how the sailboat worked. I became an aerospace engineer because of that program. The ability to say, oh, I know how this works, and then going to implement it in like a way that was fun and exciting was really rewarding. If I were to tell a little girl how to get into engineering, I would tell her just to get started in whatever way feels exciting and natural. It gets a lot easier once you just get started and start tinkering with things and building whatever excites you. It's not lost on me at all that I grew up sailing and I still love the water, and the spacecraft that we're building will help us track our oceans and our lakes and our rivers. Hopefully we'll be able to sail for much, much longer in beautiful blue waters.
SWOT is a joint mission between NASA and CNES with contributions from the Canadian and UK space agencies. Joining us now is Caroline Laurent, the Director of Orbital Systems and Applications at CNES. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi everybody.
Hi, Caroline.
What does it mean
Estamos
to
ainda
finally
aguardando
see
o
the
sinal
satellite
de
in space?
confirmação.
Well, it's so great. It's such an experience. What I'd like to say is I'm so proud of everybody. I'm proud of I'm proud of the French teams, of course, of my teams from CNES and Thales Alenia Space, but I'm also so proud of our collaboration. And of course, this success is due to our common teams and to NASA, GPL, and SpaceX. I want to congratulate everybody for this incredible launch. And I'd like to say I'm really proud to see what international cooperation can achieve together for the common good. So it's a great day.
Yes, and there's lots of activity still happening here at Vandenberg Space Force Base. What is happening over at CNES in the main control center at France right at this moment?
Okay, so in Toulouse we have the main control center and we have ground stations all over the world. So first the satellite has an autonomous maneuver for an hour and a half, and we'll have the solar panels, which is the main important thing happening, which will be deployed. But then they will take fully control of the satellite in 1 hour and a half, probably from Sweden or South Africa. And during that hour and a half, although the satellite is on an automatic mission, it will send information so the people can start having them. And so there are people that will be 24 hours a day working, starting from now through Christmas, and everybody, I want to congratulate them, of course. And then they will start deploying the antennas in a few days, and once it's fully in orbit, they will start switching on the payload.
Estamos só aguardando aí a confirmação do sinal do SWOT.
Will start, and then they will start receiving all the data. And they will
Estamos aí com
get
1 hora
data
e 6 minutos já de emissão.
Every day that will be flow down through all the overall.
Então, no método deploy foi às 9 horas e 40 minutos no horário de Brasília.
Right now they're all ready to get the first
então
pings
pela
of the satellite
Spacex.
and send the first orders within an hour.
Thanks, Caroline. So as we start a new altimetry era with SWOT,
O lançamento ocorreu com sucesso aí às 8 horas e 47 minutos no horário de Brasília, na base de Vandenberg, na Califórnia.
Yes, it's been an incredible journey, starting more than 40 years ago. And I'd say the main event was the launch of Topex Poseidon in the summer of 1992, which was the first altimetric mission.
Com pequeno problema aí na transmissão lá.
And of course, SWOT is a breakthrough because now we're going to monitor water. And before that, we were only surveying the oceans. So that's a major breakthrough, and that to monitor globally all over the world the water is really important for our work for the next decades. And as I said at the beginning, I mean, it's an incredible collaboration. We have also Canadian and British friends working with us together. And it's good to see what we can achieve together, and it's such an incredible collaboration. So right now, I'm expecting us to exploit SWOT and to have a lot of years of tremendous data with SWOT. But I'd like to think already of future missions that we could build together, because it's been a great collaboration.
Thank you, Caroline.
Caroline, thank you for joining us. Well, the SWOT satellite can see rivers that are wider than 330 feet. That's about the length of a soccer field. Cedric David, a hydrologist who studies the world's rivers, shared his unique connection to water.
Aí voltamos com a imagem da SpaceX.
There is something about the environment that's just incredibly cool. A lot of what we do as scientists is we're just curious. And so anybody who's a curious person ought to be a scientist in my opinion. You can think of the world's rivers as Earth's arteries because they're essential to life. I'm Cedric David, and I study the world's rivers. SWOT is a mission that is specifically designed in part to observe rivers, and it's also being designed jointly by NASA and the French Space Agency. I was born in France, but I've lived in the US for 18 years now, and I study rivers. So SWOT is a little bit of a match made in heaven for me. The kind of science that I'm interested in is trying to understand how much water flows down the rivers of the world, and SWOT will be able to make one such measurement for all the largest rivers of the world. So we'll be able to get a global, unified
a picture of surface waters from space. This in itself will be a scientific revolution. I think that's going to have a big impact on water management. I like to say that water is my friend. Water is my happy place. I was born with a physical disability that affected both of my legs. Being able to walk now was not a done deal at birth, and it still involves a significant amount of discomfort and is a constant reminder of having been born different. For as long as I can remember, water has been the only place where I felt comfortable, where I felt normal, where I felt like I could do things like everybody else. When I get in the water, it's just like, I mean, you're floating. When you're floating, it's just like all the pain goes away. As a kid, my parents would take my brother and I all the time to jump in the Mediterranean. But to this day, we still do it on New Year's Day every year. Planning for future generations requires us understanding how much water we have. And SWOT will be able to provide that global view of the world's fresh waters. And in my opinion, it might very well become the key that unlocks surface water observations around the world and unleashes surface water management. So it might help us make sure that everybody gets access to fresh water. Now more than ever, it's important to recognize that water connects us all, and it might be the one thing that unites us all.
We have some more questions to answer, and before we get to the social media questions, we have one from Easton.
Hello, my name is Easton. I'm 6 years old and I'm from Wayne, Indiana. And I have a question for you. Can you see SWOT from our planet?
That's a good question, Easton. Well, SWOT is relatively small compared to other celestial bodies, and it's not as bright as, say, moon. It's about 500 miles above the Earth's surface. But maybe with a pair of good binoculars, far away from major cities on a particularly night sky, you can spot SWOT from Indiana, where you live.
Invest in some binoculars there. We also have social media questions coming in, so let's get to the first one. Let's see, Elaine, will SWOT measure ice fields, glaciers, and snowpack, or just liquid water?
So the primary focus for SWOT is ice-free water, but we do have a couple of scientists who are interested to use SWOT measurements for the height of sea ice as well. Good question.
Yeah, let's get to the next one.
Neste momento, 10 horas, horário da
What will happen to the
Brasília.
probe after the mission?
Estamos aí acompanhando a missão.
So I presume it's the carrying instrument.
Space, water,
It will
and
stay
ocean
on the satellite and
topography.
do its job until we're done.
O lançamento então ocorreu às 8 horas e 47 minutos no horário de Brasília, na
Hi
base de
everyone at
Vandenberg,
NASA.
na
SWOT, our
Califórnia.
bodies
O lançamento
are
então foi
70%
feito
water, and then we
pelo
cremate the
Falcon
deceased.
9
Does
da
that water go
SpaceX.
into the atmosphere and then the land and the sea? They're really getting into
Deploy
details.
ocorreu
Or get rained back onto land.
9 horas e
Also,
40
is the
minutos
SWOT mission measuring
no
the
horário
depth
de
of
Brasília,
water
e
to
neste momento estamos
calculate the
apenas
volume?
aguardando
So we could calculate the
o
volume
recebimento
by
então do
knowing
sinal
the
do
slope
SWOT,
of the water and its height.
captura do sinal
So
do
that's
SWOT.
that's one of the measurements that we're targeting, and knowing the volume and height is really a very dynamic variable, Raquel. It can also tell us how the water moves.
Lembrando que ainda hoje, a partir das 18 horas, teremos missão
quantities like heat,
or
so
3D
energy,
and power
plastic,
one.
or pollution. So it's a very dynamic and rich quantity to deal with.
Lots of variables.
Yep.
Next question. How will SWOT satellite help in our fight against climate change?
In many ways. Let me start with the oceans. Ocean is known to absorb most of the global warming that we've accumulated over the past few years. And as we expect ocean continue taking it for the team, Team Earth, what's really interesting question, Raquel, is would it continue to absorb heat, or will reach the tipping point when the efficiency of the Earth oceans is decreasing and all of this heat will be kicked back? So by observing a range of energetics with SWOT, like on a range of frequencies, will really answer this, one of the most critical questions of our time, of what happens with our planet as it warms, as well as with our water resources that are impacted by the climate change. Questions like, will population have enough water to survive, or maybe it will have too much water that will impact its livelihood on land. So a range of questions we are looking to answer with SWOT mission.
Truly critical questions
Truly
as well.
Critical, yes.
Thank you, Nadia, and thank you for all your questions today. We are about 1 hour after launch. Commentators Megan and Denton are with us again.
Yeah, back here at the Mission Director Center, where you can actually see some people behind us celebrating because, again, the spacecraft separated a little bit ago, and now we are awaiting acquisition of signal with the spacecraft. But I do want to point out that a few minutes ago, the spacecraft team did confirm that they did get initial data from the spacecraft already, right?
Yeah, and we, as we mentioned, there was a chance that shortly after separation we could get some data.
Minutos atrás, então, às 9 horas e 40 minutos, né, tivemos aí
and it's just a subset of the full suite of telemetry that we expect to get here in a couple of minutes. So it's just a small subset just to confirm they can communicate with the spacecraft, which is great, which means the spacecraft is doing well.
Okay, so yes, we're awaiting that full acquisition of signal in about 2 minutes. So when we get that full acquisition of signal, what kind of data are we talking about?
Yeah, and so it's the full suite of data. It's the spacecraft reporting, okay, our instruments are looking good, all the subsystems are working correctly, and that's the type of data we're expecting to get from during this initial this primary pass here in a couple of minutes, and just to make sure that everything's working correctly and they did well during the ride.
Mm-hmm. And you did mention the instruments. Obviously, there's a number of different instruments on the SWOT spacecraft, so you will get data about each of the instruments as well?
Yes, and they'll be able to confirm all is working well, and that's what we expect to see. And that's one of the keys of this whole mission, is to make sure, hey, everything that's on board of the spacecraft is working well, because we really wanted to be able to execute their mission, which, as we've heard throughout the night, that how critical this mission is.
Okay, and again, the team is targeting T plus 1 hour and 18 minutes and 20 seconds, so about a minute from now. That is what they're targeting for acquisition of signal, but really that milestone isn't as hard as other milestones, right?
Yeah, and it's based on where the spacecraft is, how the launch was, and also impacted by atmospheric conditions. Because if you think about, like when you shine in a flashlight on something, and you would have like this cone, and basically the ground station is essentially looking up to the sky and looking at roundabout where the spacecraft is. So when the spacecraft comes into range, that's when we'll actually start to get data and be able to communicate to it. So it's not exact, because there is a target. Mm-hmm. So it may be off a few seconds here and there, but we're expecting to get good confirmation of that coming up soon.
Okay, and that ground station, we're hitting one in Kiruna, Sweden, right? That's the ground station Correct. We're hoping to make connection with.
Yes, and that's the ground station that the spacecraft is on its way towards right now. And so hopefully here in a few seconds we should hear confirmation that the team was able to get that full suite of information from the spacecraft.
And I do want to talk a little bit about the second stage. So obviously it's separated from the spacecraft. The second stage is still out there in orbit, but there's going to be a burn later.
That is correct. Yes. So, there's a lot of junk floating around space, and that's a big problem that, the world is wrestling with right now. And so we want to be good stewards of space. So we want to make sure, our second stage is able to deorbit, basically come down and not continue to float around and be another piece of junk to add to the issue. So it deorbits itself. It moves away from the space, safely moves away from the spacecraft, makes sure that, there's no issue. And it basically takes itself down. It'll splash down just southeast of Hawaii in the empty area of the Pacific.
Sure. Pausing now for a little bit of chatter that we're hearing among the
Estamos aguardando então o recebimento do sinal do
to see if they got that acquisition of signal, again with the ground station in Kiruna, Sweden.
Yeah, and you're getting a good look at the Kness station there in France.
SWOT a joint mission between NASA and CNES, so we're listening into both teams, our NASA teams and also the CNES team.
1h20 de missão.
And hopefully we'll see another second round of cheering once they get that full suite of information there.
Or at least a huge sigh of relief. But it is already so reassuring that they got that initial.
Yes.
You know,
absolutely.
It's like, hi, I'm here.
Yes, and that's it's huge because you know your spacecraft is working well after the ride up to space.
Yeah, I guess that initial acquisition, I guess, could be said as like, hi, I'm here, and then the full one is like, okay, now I'm ready to work, right?
Is like, now I'm checking out myself, I'm checking all my subsystems, hey, here's all the information you need to say, okay, we're working good.
Estamos só aguardando, então, a confirmação do sinal.
And one good thing about acquisition of signal is you know, there are a number of other ground stations that they could hit over the next couple of hours. This is just that first opportunity.
Right. And yeah, there's ground stations little all around the globe. And once we're in range of any of them, we're able to acquire the data from the spacecraft.
Uma hora e 21 minutos de missão.
So right now we're
Estamos aí aguardando só a confirmação do recebimento do sinal do ar. O pessoal aí da França.
So right now we're in range of the Corona ground station.
Lembrando também que além da NASA, né, em conjunto também com o pessoal da ESA.
And we're hoping to get good confirmation
Estamos
that the
aguardando a
spacecraft
confirmação
is
aí
able
do
to
sinal.
acquire that full suite of data from the spacecraft.
A very important milestone. You know, you launch to get it to where it needs to go and for it to perform correctly.
Yes.
So this is that step to say, hey, it's performing correctly.
Yep.
For NASA's LSP program, acquisition of signal is your point of mission success, right?
Yes. Yes, and that is the point that we know that the spacecraft, you know, the launch vehicle has done its job, and we just need to get that confirmation that the spacecraft is doing well. And this is the point in time where, you know, we waiting to kind of get that thumbs up from the spacecraft, say, hey, we're good, the spacecraft's looking good, and we're ready to start our mission.
Again, SWOT stands for Surface, Water and Ocean Topography. It's the first satellite mission to survey nearly all water on the Earth's surface with unprecedented detail and accuracy. You know, researchers want to understand how water resources are changing, you know, where the water is today, where it's coming from, and where it's going, and what impact those changes will have on local environments, and also how the ocean reacts to and influences climate change. Because I learned from doing research on this mission that Earth's seas absorb more than 90% of the excess heat trapped in the atmosphere by human-caused greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah. And, you know, it's so amazing to kind of be a part of
nominal the orbit
mission that is going to accomplish something that'll, you know, affect humanity and help humanity.
And we just heard a call out, nominal deorbit burn, right?
That is correct. And that's basically, as we had mentioned before, the second stage kind of taking itself out of orbit so it doesn't, you know, remain a piece of junk floating around in space. And that was basically what we heard. The second stage essentially took itself out of orbit, did a burn to kind of re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and to, you know, impact somewhere southeast.
Yeah, instead of just floating around there, like you said, space junk is obviously an issue, especially when, you know, you heard us talking about earlier in the broadcast before launch about collision avoidance. You know, we have to watch and determine whether or not it's safe to fly, considering some of the junk that's flying around out there.
Yeah, every satellite and every piece of junk is tracked, and you know, and that's something we have to take into account.
Uma hora e 24 minutos,
get ready to launch. We have to know where all these different pieces of junk are, so we don't, you know, fly too close or impact any of these items.
Estamos só aguardando, então, confirmação de
Here's a
órbita
look at
de sinal.
NASA management team, all waiting around,
Já recebemos a confirmação de órbita. Agora estamos
their full
guardando
passes went well and they were able
confirmação
to
de
acquire
sinal.
all the data required from the spacecraft.
Yeah, as you said, we are within range of the ground station we're trying to hit in Kiruna, Sweden. We now hear Kness over the audio loops trying to contact our NASA team. All right, there you go. We are hearing the Kness team confirming to our NASA team that we have
Confirmado agora
acquisition of
nesse
signal
momento
with
o
the SWOT
sinal
spacecraft.
confirmado.
That's fantastic news.
And the team has done their full
Confirmamos o
analysis.
sinal nesse momento às 10 horas e 13 minutos do horário de Brasília. Sinal confirmado, então, do SWOT.
And you can see it there on the screen.
Applause here at the Mission
Com
Director
1 hora
Center.
e 25 minutos e 50 segundos de missão. Confirmado nesse momento aí o sinal do
Again, a joint
SWOT.
mission between the two agencies, also contributions from the UK and Canadian space agencies, a truly
Então, nesse momento
international
também
mission
nós encerramos
to
a
see
nossa
what we can do about
transmissão
climate change and
e
what we
agora
can
da
do
parte da
about
manhã.
freshwater management.
Lembrando que na parte da tarde, a partir das 18 horas, teremos então a missão O3 de M-Power 1. Das 18 horas. Muito obrigado então pela sua audiência e sua paciência. Nos vemos mais tarde a partir das 18 horas. Até lá. Não. Errei. Errei. Sim.